This show is sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy. Without a healthy mind, being happy is hard. Visit betterhelp.com/kindafunny and see if online therapy is for you. What's up, everybody? Welcome to PSI Love You XOXO episode 79. I'm one of your hosts, Greg Miller, alongside the game playing, roller skating, Janet Garcia.
Hey, what's up?
Not much. You got a hole in your jacket.
I do. I have like, it's like.
Oh, there's two.
Yeah, it's like a cutout thing, but it makes more sense when I have like a tank top on.
So they're there. They keep you cool. They're like cooling vents. It's
like a little mesh patch situation, kind of.
Oh,
it's like a jacket. It's a California jacket.
Hold on, I got to enlarge. Barrett, I'm enhancing Janet Garcia's image here on Discord because I thought they were just straight up holes, but there's a mesh. Put your hand.
Do you want me to enhance too? I'll enhance.
Yeah, everybody, we're gonna go to a wide shot. We're blowing up the image to get as close as possible. Janet Garcia here. I see. This is a wardrobe. This is a thing.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because then you can stay cool. Especially while you're roller skating or game playing.
Feeling cool and looking cool.
Thank you.
That's right, Barrett Courtney on the ones and twos. Janet Garcia, give me the rundown. It's a Monday morning or Monday afternoon now as we record this. How are you feeling? How was the weekend? What's the haps?
Feeling pretty good. You know, did get Zay this morning. That was fun. Did that with Tim. This weekend I went mini golfing for I feel like the first official time because I've only ever gone to Chicago.
In your life?
Where it's indoor. Yeah, because I've only ever gone to Chicago where it's indoors. I went once in Chicago where it's it's not so much of a mini golf course there as somebody had a building and they're like, what if we built some weird stuff here and put some.
What if we let you put inside this building?
Exactly. Yeah. Versus outdoors where there's the fake water and the pirate ship and all that. Yeah, I went with my boyfriend. I lost by quite a margin, which sucked because when I played on Game Pass with golf with your friends or whatever it's called, I won. So I felt but surely enough, the issue I had in game did translate to real life where when it's really close, sometimes I overshoot. So a lot of my strokes came from I'm only less than a foot away from the hole, but it rolls funny and then we're doing it again. And
you got to tap it in. Thing. Tap-a-roo, Come on, that's what you got to do. It's not about the big power shot.
Hips.
There you go.
It is in the hips.
Yeah.
Now, are these Happy Gilmore references working for you, Janet, or is that ancient history to you?
I totally forgot. But I did watch Happy Gilmore as we discussed. We talked about this on Friday.
Yeah, no, but I just want to make sure. I understand we've talked about it. I understand it turns out in an alternate universe we had a Happy Gilmore fighting golfing game that would have been amazing. I just wanted to make sure right now that you understood where this was all coming from.
Yeah.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
What
about you? What was your weekend like?
My weekend was great. My best friend Poe came to visit and is still here. Actually, I'm sure at some point you'll see him cross behind me and cross back out. We played a bunch of games. We drank a bunch of beer. We went up to Russian River Brewery.
I meant to respond to that, but I just totally forgot. What co-op games did you end up playing? Did you take a flyer on any suggestions or?
Oh, we took in a lot of suggestions. I downloaded a lot of stuff, but as any good host, I download a million different things. And then of course, Poe, who, as we've talked about before in a million other shows, but maybe you haven't caught them, is an adult. He's a real person, right? He's got a son, he's got a job, he teaches at a university. He's not in our world of checking up on every video game. So I get to do the PowerPoint presentation of I sat him down on Friday and I was like, here are the available games to play this weekend. And I ran them through and I explained what Hyper Light Drifter was, right? I went through and I explained a few of the other ones that I had it, but what he settled on will lead us to the topic of the show. So without further ado, let's start this episode of PSI Love You XOXO. If you didn't know, PSI Love You XOXO is Kinda Funny's PlayStation podcast each and every week. Janet, myself, and sometimes Blessing, when he hasn't been bitten in both eyes by a snake, come together to nerd out about all things PlayStation. If you like that and you want to be part of the show, you should go to patreon.com/kindafunnygames. Over on patreon.com/kindafunnygames, of course, you can write in to be part of the madness. Once again, I've said this many times. I want to stress it, of course. Kinda Funny, nothing without the Kinda Funny best friends, yada, yada, yada. You know all that bullshit. But the PS I Love You XOXO audience never fails to astound me. When I wake up Monday morning, we're going to do an episode. What are we going to talk about? I throw out an idea and you guys bury us with hundreds of responses in like an hour and a half. I'm always impressed. You're amazing. I'm so happy we come together every week to do this show together. Like I was saying, though, you can be part of the show, patreon.com/kindoffunnygames. Over on patreon.com/kindoffunnygames. Of course, you can be watching the show live as we record it, just like John Stockwell is. This is John Stockwell's first time ever watching live. So Janet, we have to do a good show for him. Of course, you can get the show ad-free on patreon.com/kindoffunnygames. And of course, you can get the post show we do each and every week, including last week's Where the Heart Leads spoiler cast that I'm so very, very proud of, Janet.
It was really good.
However, if you have no bucks to toss our way on patreon.com/kindoffunnygames, get all sorts of the same support for other shows like Gamescast, like the Next Gen podcast, all the different things we do on Patreon. No big deal. You can get each and every episode of PS I Love You XOXO 1 day later, Tuesday at 6 a.m. on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames, roosterteeth.com, and listening on podcast services around the globe. And every Tuesday, of course, you have ads. Of course, you don't get the post show, but you still have a great time. Speaking of great time, Greg Way, let's talk about housekeeping. I had a great time talking to The Last of Us Part 2's Shannon Woodward over on the Kind of Funny podcast last week. If you head over to youtube.com/kindoffunny or podcast services around the globe, you can catch Shannon talking about her illustrious acting career and then why she thinks it's okay to take your shoes off on a plane, but not your socks. And I say that's a slippery slope. Keep your shoes on, because it's Pandora's box. Once it's open, once you do it, once you give them an inch, Janet, they will take a mile.
That's the important thing. You're not at home.
Yeah.
You're not at home. You're in public.
But that the best of both worlds, Greg. Slip-on Vans, where you just like you turn them kind of into slippers, and then you're not like constricted with the entire shoe, but like you still have like a little freedom there on a plane. You know what I'm saying?
So you're not saying take them off. You're just saying that. Okay.
Yeah, you bend like the backs of the shoes so they're more like slippers, and you can like just kind of like get a little breathing room, you know.
Sure, you can give a little bit of a pull back, get a breathing space on the big toe, but you're not full out there. You're not walking around in your socks. And you're definitely not sitting there with your shoes off, socks on, and then looking at somebody who's shoeless, sockless, and going, "Oh, that's disgusting." You're one thing removed from then. All right. Yeah. You've already jumped out of the plane at that point, Shannon Woodward. I digress. She's, of course, Dean in The Last of Us Part 2. She's in Westworld. She's on the Kind of Funny podcast. Come check it out. Like I said already, Blessing got bit by a snake in both eyes, but he is finally expected to be recovered and back on PS I Love You XOXO next week. You should be like our Patreon producers. There's Marcus Standifer, a.k.a. Shitastic, Tyler Ross, Julian the Gluten-Free Gamer, James Hastings, Casey, Andrew, and Elliot. Today, our sponsors are ExpressVPN, Upstart, and Credit Karma. But for now, let's start with topic of the show. So, Janet.
Yes.
I've been doing this a long time. As Barrett pointed out, he was 13 years old when I was already covering my second E3, and that's a fucked up thing to know about. So old. But, we talk about all the time. I've, matured on camera. I know what I don't know. Obviously, things I would have done in 2007, I would never do now or whatever. But something I don't think I've ever had to do, Janet, is truly hat in hand apologize. And I've definitely apologized for actions or things I've said or, jokes I made that didn't make sense or, a whole bunch of different things. But I've never had to full on apologize to a developer. And so what I want to do for topic of the show is apologize. And again, it's not something I'm used to. And I guess, I just want to apologize to Supermassive Games. Poe came to town. I laid out all the things he could play. And then right there it was on the dashboard, right? The Dark Pictures anthology, Little Hope. And he's like, what's this one about? I'm like, oh, well, this one is co-op. There's, a mode we could play together. I started it the other night because last week before he even came, I was like, I need to play this. Of course, Dark Pictures Anthology, House of Ashes coming up October 22nd, 2021. At E3 this year, Bandai Namco did their whole presentation about House of Ashes, showed some stuff. And I was surprised to find of the panel we were on, I was one of the people who'd played the most of it and knew obviously Supermassive's background with Until Dawn, their history of coming up, with PlayStation there, Rush of Blood, Hidden Agenda, The Inpatient, then going into this 8-game deal with the Dark Pictures Anthology and Bandai. But one of the things I said then, And then I said to Poe here I had explained the whole legacy to him, right? Of like, Until Dawn was a great game. It came out of nowhere. Everybody loved it. And then they did some other stuff. But if we're talking about like the core of what Until Dawn is, right? It moves on to become the Dark Picture anthology. It goes multi-platform. And for me, Man of Medan, the first one that came out in 2019, was underwhelming. It didn't live up to the hype of what Until Dawn was. I think Until Dawn's a better game than Man of Medan. Better story. I think it looks better, runs better. I thought it had a better pacing. A whole number of issues that I could give you about that. But what happened is Man of Medan being a fledgling first step for the Dark Pictures anthology. And again, if you're not familiar with this, Supermassive, they make these video games where you go through and it's all choice-based, butterfly effects, right? You're going through and seeing how your choices play out. There's a narrator who was a psychiatrist in Until Dawn. Now it's the curator, this like crypt keeper kind of guy in the Dark Pictures anthology that's there game after game. And so it was this thing of this narrative tissue of Man of Medan not delivering the way Until Dawn did, but being the start of an 8-game thing, me being like, well, we will see where we go from here, right? Like, hopefully they can get back to it. But I think on this show, on other shows, I've talked about the fact that I think this is why exclusives are a good thing for many times, right? Where I think, for Bandai Namco to sign this deal with them, want 8 games. Right now, they are producing these at a clip, 1 game a year, right? Man of Medan 2019, Little Hope in 2020, House of Ashes in 2021. That doesn't give you a lot of time to iterate. And so, Man of Medan comes out, and I don't think it runs well technically, and I don't think it's great pacing, and I don't think it looks as good as Until Dawn, which, of course, is exclusive for PlayStation 4, working so tightly with Sony, having probably more money, more budget, more time. And we all know the crazy story it was to get Until Dawn to that point, because it was a completely different game at one point. But what I'm saying is, Man of Medan, I thought, stumbled out of the gate and dampened my excitement for this entire Dark Pictures anthology thing, to the point that when Little Hope came out in 2020, I think it was Barrett, was it you or was Joey and Blessing who went and did the preview event, correct?
Yeah, I helped with their I think they did like a Let's Play or something of it, or like a preview thing. But yeah, it was Blessing and Joey who I think went to that.
Exactly. And so Joey and me usually are the Until Dawn. We did the Man of Medan previews. We did the Man of Medan review. Man of Medan. I just like saying it. Whoa, you know Black what I mean? Betty. Oh, Black Betty, ram-a-lam. Whoa, Black Betty, ram-a-lam.
Goes a long way.
Yeah, exactly. I like the alliteration. Man of Medan. Yeah, there you go. But, so long story short, other people saw it for Little Hope for the review and for playing it. And I remember when it came out, I was doing something else. And I eventually asked Joey and I asked Blessing, like, hey, Little Hope, how was it? And they were like, it was fine. You know what I mean? And I was like, cool. And I never went back to play Little Hope. There was other things happening. I moved on. I kind of forgot who I am, Janet. And I forgot that I love horror movies. I forgot that I'm, horror things drop on Netflix, whatever. Jen and I are watching. We're being a part of it. We're all over it, And so for this to come, me be subscribed to Shudder, to be doing all these different things, all it took was the wet blanket for me personally of what Man of Medan was, and then lukewarm impressions. Right now, A Little Hope has a Metacritic of 71, right? Man of Medan had a 69, so you see that they're right around there. I was like, oh, I'll get to it eventually. Now, that's not something you need to apologize, ladies and gentlemen. Janet, I think you're on my side. Get to games when you get to them. Play things when you're in the mood for them. Don't worry about. You don't have to be on top of everything, right, Mrs. Garcia?
Pretty much. I mean, it helps if you are, but also I think if you're not making content, like if this is not your job, like do what you want. Like it'll happen when it happens, if it ever ends up happening.
And so Little Hope sat there, and where I need to apologize to Supermassive, of course, is the fact that then at E3 and on a number of different podcasts, right? I've talked about this, where I'm like, I've said when we watched House of Ashes, the preview event, I was like, this looks really good. This looks really cool. I'm hoping it's getting back to Until Dawn. And now that it's 3 games into the series, I'm interested to see if they were able to take more of the feedback they got with the first installment, Man of Medan, and some of the Little Hope going off of reviews and, criticisms of it, some of that feedback, and if that's going to influence what you get out of House of Ashes come October. But again, kind of not talking out my ass, and I admitted that I hadn't played Little Hope yet. But I sat there, Janet, this weekend. I showed Poe all these different games he could play, explained what Little Hope was, and right off the bat, out of the blue, he's like, oh, that's the one we should play. Like, let's do that. Let's go through and do this story or whatever. And so we started that up, and Janet, we beat that in one night, and we had such a great time with it. Such a great time with Little Hope. By no stretch of the imagination is this a 10 out of 10 game, obviously. I think Until Dawn isn't a 10 out of 10 game either, right? Until Dawn was a 79 on Metacritic as of right now. But it's the same idea of what you want out of those experiences. And I think they did better with pacing for House of Ashes. But more importantly for me, what Little Hope gets right over Man of Medan. You're looking at a trailer for House of Ashes right now if you're if you're a visual listener. What Little Hope gets right over Man of Medan was not giving away what was going on. Man of Medan had a moment early on where I was like, oh, well, clearly this is what's the horror element here, right? This is how it's going to go. And so then when you get to the end of the game and it's revealed that exactly what I thought was going to happen, I was like, oh, well, who cares? Whereas for Little Hope, and again, I think Little Hope, before I get that, we've beaten the campaign, right? And we want to replay it right away because it is, we didn't get the good ending. We didn't get the ending that actually split.
Absolutely. So at the end, it's funny that you're just going to replay it, which I think it's the, more pure way to experience it. What we did in my household, because we also, at first I thought I had not played Little Hope. And then I saw the trailer, that Barrett's has been pulling up. And I'm like, oh yeah, me and my family totally also played that one. We did play Little Hope. I guess it is probably a little better than Man of Medan, but definitely leaves a lot to be desired. But my thing with that game is, when it does hit the end, I watched like a bunch of stuff on YouTube immediately after.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I have to know like what the other stuff is, but I don't want to have to do the work of playing through it again. So I just started going down the rabbit hole of watching like the various drastically different permutations of where that shows up, which I do think is a testament to at least the branches. I mean, there wasn't anything like too like when we saw it, we're like, okay, this makes sense. Yeah, I could see this going that way. So it wasn't like totally mind blowing, but I think it was so cool that it does have that replay value that I then removed by putting up the YouTube videos instead.
Yeah, then you didn't play it again. No, I'm right there with you. I can't wait to hear about your experience with it because there's several different things here why I'm apologizing to Supermassive, right, for like writing this game off for more than a year. And it's on top of what we're saying in terms of, oh man, I let it sit too long. I think the fact that I played this drastically different than I played Until Dawn or Man of Medan really goes a long way. Where Until Dawn, of course, is if you're not an old person like me, you don't remember maybe. 2015 PlayStation exclusive, Supermassive. It was the one with Hayden Panettiere, who you know from Nashville. This guy Rami, who I believe is the robot from Mr. Robot. Barrett, does that check out?
What does he do?
Doodle-loo, when he talks to ATMs, of course.
Thank you.
No problem. And then Jordan Fisher, now Impulse from The Flash, and the guy from PS To All the Boys I Loved Before, #2.
Oh yeah, that's weird to me now.
Yeah, right. When we started this thing back up last night, last night to go back in, I was first off amazed again that everything I said is correct. Until Dawn still looks better than these new games. And #2, the fact that like, oh man, the blueprint for exactly what Dark Pictures Anthology is still here, which is, I think, comforting and good. With that lens on it, I really like the fact that the Dark Pictures Anthology is like going to be 8 games that are pretty much the same thing in terms of like, here's the narrator, here are your choices, here's, you're going through and you're making a different thing, blah, blah, blah. But anyways, I'm getting way away from the point I was trying to make at the beginning. What I find fascinating about this is the struggle I've had for so many years when I was at IGN of reviewing games, and then the way I review the game not being the way people play the game, right? Like I remember all my PSP reviews being, oh man, I'm playing it on the train on my commute to work or whatever, and then people are like, I don't have a commute, I have a car. You know what I mean? I'm not on a bus, I'm not on a train like you are. For this one, Until Dawn, of course, was a single-player game that I played and reviewed single-player. But if you remember, I always go back to that awesome PSX moment where they played it in front of at the press conference in front of the live crowd, and when the crowd started screaming for what choice they wanted them to make. And then, of course, when the game came out and people started streaming the game and then having people at their house and hearing anecdotally, right, of playing this game with your friends and then trying to make the decisions. That, of course, changes the way Supermassive does these games, where as soon as they start the Dark Pictures Anthology with Man of Medan, again, not a great story, I don't think, but they added in all right, cool, it's online. So, at some point, at one point in the story, you guys go to different sides of the boat. And if you are playing online with somebody, they'll go to the other side and you'll go to the other side and you guys do the separate things. If you're doing it single player, you don't see what happens on the other side of the boat. You'll have conversations about it, but it won't be something you go interact with. Or you could do a local play, right? And they call it movie night, where I think it's up to 5 players. Chat, correct me if you're wrong, if I'm wrong, where, you put in everybody's name, and then the game just announces basically like, all right, Janet, it's your turn. And then you pass the controller to Janet, and Janet plays until it says, all right, Greg, it's your turn, and pass the controller to Greg. And so you've seen it evolve that way. to be that angle of it. And I remember when Joey and I went to do the Man of Medan preview event, which is the one where we were on a battleship out in Oakland. Video game preview events, man. Just send builds of the game. Don't you don't have to.
Like, wait, is this in the game? Then I'm like, wait, Oakland is not. That was not where the game was.
No,
Did it enhance the experience?
No, it was like awkward. We got to take a ferry and talk to other journalists on the way there. But it was that Joey and I played it online cooperatively right there next to each other. And then when I got the game home, it was me playing it single player. So at the preview event for Man of Medan, we had done a little bit there where it was past the controller with other journalists, but it wasn't like the thrust of the event. So anyways, what I'm saying is to play it with a new lens with Poe here and have it be that cool. Let's crack a couple beers. Let's just pass the controller back. And then having that live debate of what was going on. Because again, I think Little Hope does a better job of keeping you on your toes as to what's going on. It was a very similar thing of when it started. I was like, oh, I got this. Clearly X is happening because of this, that thing, and the conversation that just happened there. And then as the game went, I was like, wait, well, that doesn't make sense anymore. And, it escalates and changes and permutates until you get to the ending that, again, for me and Poe, left us with a lot of questions where it was we finished it at, like, I don't know, midnight.
The answers are on YouTube.
I'm not going to YouTube, Janet. I refuse to go to YouTube for this. And it was the idea of like, oh, well, okay, that was weird. And then, but I guess this, I don't know, whatever, good night. And then the next morning when we were out going to the farmer's market with Jen, it was this whole conversation of like, but if this, then that, why is this, blah, blah, blah. And it's that slow build of, I initially was with you, Janet, where I finished it. And I was like, maybe if it would have been earlier, we would have gone straight to YouTube to watch endings. But now it's this idea that, hey, you know what, like, I think the game, I talked about pacing, right? And how I think Man of Medan's pacing was not great. Little Hope is a slow start for sure to get to actually like the crazy things that are happening, but it's also not that long where it's like, a 4 to 5 hour long game or whatever. So I feel like when we come back and replay it, and I want to have it when Poe goes back to Chicago, we play it over online so we can see the other sides of what's going on with it. But it'll be a faster thing of I'm having the same conversation. I know what to do. I don't need to investigate the same way to figure out what's going on to then get to the ending points and make the major different choices or try to fill it out this way. Talk to me about playing Little Hope. I'm sorry, I've been dominating this. Have you been? Did you play it in 2020? Did you play it at release?
I played it. Oh God, was it in? I think I played it in 2020. I feel like I played it when it came out with my family. And well, so one question I have for you: you said you played Man of Medan by yourself, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because my light pushback is it that? And I think Little Hope is a little bit better than Man of Medan, but it's like, is Little Hope good or is Poe and Beer good? Because those are different, And I do think the game facilitates that experience, though. Like, I do think I need to give the game its flowers in that sense. Like, you can't get that from a lot of other games, even of the same genre. And I think that's what keeps me going back to it. Like, if I could only play this, well, if I could only play it single player, I would still play it the way I played it now. Because like, I'm like, you don't got to have co-op baked in for me to be like, we're turning this into a co-op game. I've played so many games co-op that are completely single. I mean, that's how I played all the Uncharted games. Like, me and my brother would pass the controller and we'd get through them, all except for 4. I got too tired at the end of 3. I'm like, I'm not doing 4 because every game y'all told me was gonna get better and it never got good enough. And y'all told me it again and I'm tired of believing. And the first 3 came on 1 disc. Anyway, I digress. Little Hope was cool. Like, it was fun to go through the story and kind of, speculate and like talk smack about certain things or whatever. And one thing I like about these games, even though, and like, I hope to one day stream them because I've never streamed them for an audience. I think it would be entertaining, but we played on console, so you have like the controller input. I think on PC the game is much quote unquote easier, and by easier I mean like, there are times, if you're not familiar with these games, where you do have like kind of quick time events, like, okay, you got to press like this button here to make this jump, and if you don't, like, you have these consequences and etc. So that like can change the story. Like, missing those events or messing that up can have like a narrative and significant impact. That being said, since we played on controller, it's a little, you have to actually really make sure that you're on it.
Oh yeah.
Some people, I don't want to name names, right? Like, I played with shout out to my brother Edwin and his fiance Maggie. We played together, and some of us, y'all, for whatever excuse, I'm not used to the Xbox and the squares and the X's or whatever. There were times where I was just straight up, it was like me and Maggie just yelling at my brother Edwin, like, no, like, do the thing. You got to hit X. Or we'd like call out the things, or I'd be like, okay, like at one point, again, like maybe less versed in like the different schemes, especially under pressure. I'm like, okay, look at the controller. We're going to yell the button. You just press the button. Like, you're not, doing all these wild things to just try to get through. And then it was hilarious too afterward. And again, testament to, I think, what the game creates from I talked a little bit in the post show from last week about loving, games by which I get to talk about them after. Like I like the experience and the community and all that and the conversations, like being able to right after I played this, I knew Lucy from IGN had reviewed it. I'm like, I gotta see what Lucy thinks. So I know Lucy's taste like pretty well at this point. So like I have to read her like critical analysis of it. Pretty much agree with the review. I think it was a pretty good one. But the funny thing is she mentioned like, oh yeah, and like the inputs are like super easy. I'm like, bro, we were like dying, like literally, like so many lives were lost based on just incompetence as far as our team. But that's part of it. And that was part of the fun. And the thing we've enjoyed for Dark Pictures a lot is making fun of the narrator, because he's so like, so he has like this little, if you haven't played the game, he's very like I'm a spooky man telling you spooky stories, and he has like the candlestick and everything, and he has like this like really tight outfit where he has like the little vest and the little pants, so he's all just like, you know, slowly rocking his hips to the bookshelf, and I'm like, what's going on here? Like it's so like hammed up and goofy, and that is what I've appreciated about it. And then one last shot for Little Hope, I think, of why I do think it's a little better than Man of Medan. Maybe not significantly better, but a little bit. I think one thing that was cool is they deviated from like the cast formula they normally have. Normally it's like friends of the same age, which is fair because a lot of times when you're friends with people, they're often near your age,
same
right?
age.
Yeah, like that's pretty much the case, right? You have like, okay, high school drama Until Dawn, Man of Medan. I think they were maybe like college age. I don't really remember.
They were college kids. Yeah, I remember one guy proposes, the other guy's like his brother.
Yeah. That was funny too, playing that game with my family, because like, and at that point, my soon-to-be sister-in-law, like she wasn't proposed to yet, so they weren't like fiance, they were just together. And seeing that scene of like the underwater proposal, it's like, okay, this is what not to do, like not a ham-fisted underwater proposal. But I think what was cool about Little Hope is it had a more broadcast, and I think they had like, you know, some people that were like older, like quote unquote non-traditional, because it was still college, but it was like non-traditional college students, or they had the professor who was like a bit older than the students. So I think having those different power dynamics and relationships helped kind of explore different personality tropes than they've done before, because a lot of Until Dawn and Man of Medan, it does have that undertone of like, oh, we're boyfriend girlfriend, we're going off, ooh, like maybe they're gonna fuck in the woods, maybe they won't, maybe they'll break up. It's like, and I like that stuff, don't get me wrong, I'm here for like the teen drama. My beef with Until Dawn is I don't think they hammed up the drama enough on that front. But you know, like I think having that different stuff, it gave me different characters to like or hate, or like, okay, this guy's like a jerk for this reason, or this guy's power hungry, or this professor is negligent. Like it just had a different social layer to it that I think kind of benefited from like being there, as opposed to like sticking to the same like young hot people in danger trope.
Totally. You've given I love this conversation. I love working with you. You've given so much in there I want to respond to or jump off of, right? And so starting from the top, where I think it's part of what we're about to get into, especially with what you just talked about and brought up, right? Is the game good, or are Poe and Beer good? And the answer, of course, is that Poe and Beer are good. And I also think the formula of Dark Pictures Anthology is good. And what I mean by that is right in line with everything you're saying, where, again, you know, I love horror movies, right? And that said, for the amount of horror movies I watch, I think, and this is a broad brush, don't come at me with a million examples, I understand it, but there's different expectations for a horror movie than going to see the new Tom Hanks Civil War drama. And I mean that and that is totally cheating on so many different levels, but it is, of course, that I'm watching a horror movie which is completely unrealistic to begin with. So I know if it's going to be something like a Hereditary, right, or Midsommar, that is trying to be grounded and trying to really fucking, you know, mind freak you, or if it's going to be Jason's back and doesn't explain why, but he's out there having fun, and I can have fun watching a Friday the 13th. While I admit that it's not a well put together movie in terms of a storyline and character development, right? I think that Supermassive Games, and I'm not saying the proper now, but Supermassive Games, Man of Medan, you know, the Dark Pictures and Until Dawn, you come in with the idea, at least for me personally, that I'm punching my ticket to get this. I don't want to say B horror movie, because that makes it sound like, you know, a trauma or something like that. But I'm punching my ticket for a very specific kind of experience that is exactly what you're talking about, where it relies so much on tropes and sometimes uses them to subvert expectations, but other times leans into them. And I'm right there with you with Until Dawn, right? Where like originally that had been sold as, oh, it's supposed to be like I Know What You Did Last Summer. It's supposed to be a Scream. It's supposed to be a teen drama laden horror thing. And it is. But I'm right there with you that they really don't go. They could go even further with that to really drive that home. They tried. It felt like they went up in a way that, since they never went like they were, all the way to a Jennifer Love Hewitt screaming, "What are you waiting for?" a moment kind of thing, and keeping it up there. It always felt like it was trying to be a little bit more realistic. So then the things that were elevated towards a teen drama made it feel like, oh, okay, that's kind of campy. But are they trying to be campy here? Is it not trying to be campy? And yada yada yada. Whereas now that I think again they have this formula down, I know. Like, there's 8 Dark Pictures anthologies that in this deal is what they've talked about, right? We're about to get the 3rd in 2021. Like, I feel like if they actually deliver on all 8, I'm going to know the entire way through what I'm getting and what I'm punching the ticket for. And that means that there's definitely, I enjoy playing them alone, but there are moments alone where I was, okay, looking at my phone. Like, you know what I mean? All right, you're talking about this thing, or I'm interviewing the guy at the bar. I'm throwing darts at the bar for no reason. It's like, why are you doing this? But sitting there with your friend playing it, right, and who's also like, listen, this is kind of goofy, but I'm here for what the overall thing is. I want to flesh out that big picture narrative a little bit here. I feel like that works. And so it is this, what is the right? I would never sit here and tell you any of these games, no, are great games, right? You know what I mean? These are must plays. Until Dawn at the time, I would. We're replaying it now and having a great time. But even the stuff that, I feel like even as good as Until Dawn looks like, the thing they always wrestled with was that line of Uncanny Valley. And I feel like that is more apparent in the Dark Pictures anthology because, again, I don't think as much time, money, and care is put into them. So it is that thing of like, so, they do these scans of everybody's faces. So you play, you're like, oh, I recognize that actor. I know that guy from Meet the Millers or whatever, or We're the Millers. And you're like, oh, yeah, okay, cool. But that looks really great in cutscenes. And then when you're playing it and like they're moving around like robots or something, right? Like that can break the experience for you. Or if you've already bid in and you know what you're getting and you punch the ticket understanding that, there's still fun to be had there. I think it's obvious now, but I think the easier way to sell these, even though it's I guess a more niche reference, would be that like these are Tales from the Crypt. Like when I'd watch Tales from the Crypt every week on Fox, at like 11:30 on Saturdays or Fridays, whenever it was, like I knew I wasn't getting like the best a horror story could possibly be, but I was going to have a fun time doing it. I think that's where they're at. And they don't always hit it. Again, Man of Medan, I like, even with Poe and I, like in Man of Medan having a co-op mode, right? And all that stuff. I was like, let's play Until Dawn instead. Like Until Dawn's better. If we're going to take you back and play something else on top of this, let's go do that right now rather than jump back into that, even though it's more recent.
Yeah. So are you in on House of Ashes now? Is that on your,
I mean, I was
and had that calendar. Is it actually going to be like something you make time for actively when it comes out?
Hopefully that will of course be October 2021, which is when the child will be with us. You know what I mean? By October 22nd, that child will be here, knock on wood, no matter what.
Great. More the merrier. Pass the controller to that child, make some decisions,
People all over the place. Man, Greg, get ready to play. You're not going to play any video games anymore. I'm like, well, kind of my job and kind of my, sole passion in life. So I bet I do. And I bet it is that, we talk about it all the time of how we're going to tackle, taking care of this kid in the first 3 months or whatever. And shifts seem to be the way that it works. I could easily see me, because again, these games are games you're basically watching a show, but then you make the choices, right? And yeah, I might have a kid in my arm and fuck up a button prompt and kill it. The character, not the kid. The kid will be fine if I fuck up a button prompt. The kid will be fine. I could see that being something
one of the games that's going to happen in this anthology where it's like real life, this meta situation.
Oh my God. I just gave them the idea for their sixth
one. But then for some reason, something supernatural comes. I think that's, speaking of with tropes, I think one of my issues with like the series and a lot of like the Supermassive Games, including Until Dawn, and this happens with, I guess, light spoilers for Uncharted. I just get tired of like, you're leading me down one path and then you're like, it's secretly a weird monster. And I'm like, yeah, I guess it can be. And then they're like, it's done and everyone's dead. I'm like, all right. Like, it feels like, I guess those moments, because they happen so often in that series and in Uncharted to a degree, like it ends up feeling like if y'all watch The Office and Michael Scott doing improv, and he has a gun every time. It's like, not exciting to have the gun, but every time it's like they whisper to me, he has a gun. He can't show me.
What did he whisper to you? He said he can't show it to me, but he has a gun. No, I hear you, and I think like that. To another thing I wanted to pick from your story, right? And you compared it to Lucy's review of like the buttons are easier or whatever. I think again that comes down to the environment in which you're playing it and how you're playing it. Where when I solo these games, I have the controller ready to go. I mean, Until Dawn, I remember specifically, killing somebody because it was like the thing was playing it out and I put the controller down to grab a coffee or whatever. And that was then a moment of like, I needed to keep it still, and it vibrated and it killed the person. I was like, oh my God. So I was like, knew not to do that. And so, again, Man of Medan, even though I don't quite find anything about that game memorable, outside of one of the Ashmores being in it. I forget if it was Iceman or Jimmy Olsen. But playing through that one, whatever. This one with Poe, right? I was fucking shit up, and I was having a conversation, and you would be talking like, "Oh God, fucking tap square. Oh, I didn't tap square enough. That person's dead." It's like, ah, damn it. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's, again, not that I'm saying there's no credence to the other way. This is all about how you're going to play it, and I love that there's this many reviews out there and this many case studies on it then based on that. But I think that is the better way to play it, right? Where the whole thing is not even grading on a curve, right? In terms of the use case for how you do it and how you play it, I think the games do perform better when it is being played that way, when there is an audience going through it. And now that, Poe's into them, I'm excited to try to play, House Ashes with them on the online or whatever, or vice versa.
Yeah, I don't think I would play these games by myself. I think even if I was playing single player, I would do a thing where I would do it on stream and then have like chat input or something. And I will say, it's a fine line, like with these games. I am not rushing to call I probably would not call any of them good. I would probably, maybe Until Dawn I would call good, even though I have so many issues with that game. I think it's one that was like, it is technically good. If I wrote a review, it would come out good, but I'd have a lot of complaints. The other ones are more in the line of okay, and I think an argument for mediocre is fair, but I'd have to think more about it on where I would land between okay and mediocre. But I think, again, the fun is in that audience participation, and I think, too, as much as, like you said, grading on a curve, there's not a lot of, mainstream games that are of this genre and of this specific ilk, because it's not just a story game. It's a story choice game, and it's of a certain genre. It's of horror, Like, if I don't pick up this slice, like, this might be the only time I get this flavor. So, and I don't know. You can make the argument that, like, that's not worth, like, spending time on just because it's the only thing available. But for me, like, I don't know. I'm in on it. Like, I'm here. This is part of what I do as someone that likes these games, and I like playing them because I can, see if eventually they're going to figure out the secret sauce of it. They have a bunch of, like, if these are 8 just okay games, sign me up. I'm going to be here 2027 being like, I think this is the time they can really, nail it.
See, I think the hope, right, is that
too. Like, I've played some really terrible choice driven where I'm like, oh, it can get bad out there. So yeah, like, this is decent. It's okay.
That's my thing, where I think, again, like, yeah, I like the idea that we know what these games are. And like, you bring up the narrator or the curator, right, in Dark Pictures Anthology. And it is that thing of like, what a goon this dude is, but I kind of dig him. Like when it, like in Little Hope, he's like,
like, I love him.
Hurry along, you have a funeral. I love a good funeral. As it fades out, he's got his candelabra and his book or whatever, and it's like, oh man, you literally are the crypt keeper.
His like cryptic messages, and then he'll out of nowhere just be like, oh, you caught me. Like, it's just so goofy. And like, I think too, what's nice about him is that it does tie things together. Like, that's someone I can look forward to talking to.
Yeah.
When House of Ashes comes out.
Yeah, and I don't know, it sets the stage for what they're doing. And again, you can be like, well, that's a cop out, right? Of like, it's not a great game. It's not, but it's like, but it's trying to achieve something, and I think it succeeds in it. Even though, you know what I mean? Like, I think they've created something there that is uniquely their own, outside of the fact that it's just Tales from the Crypt. But like, it is uniquely their own space for video games, and I do get excited. I am excited for House of Ashes.
Yeah, like, the process is enjoyable, I think, which is rare, I think, in games that just end up being okay, where every now and then, and I think that's why, like, it always takes, I still am pro, like, review scores. I think they're beneficial. I like having them. I like scoring stuff when I review it personally, but I think that is where, like, there is so much nuance to scores, and you really can't just look at a score and say, the whole story of it, because there are games that I think are just okay that I totally recommend, and then ones that I think are just okay that I can't stand and wouldn't recommend at all, and I give them the same critical score, but I have drastically different feelings about them. And I think
that's where the words come in, right? That's where the nuanced review.
But if people are like, that's a lot of work, and I'm like, watch the video version, they're like, I don't want to click it. I'm like, well, I don't know what we're gonna do here or why we'll start talking, but while you're here, play Little Hope and Man of Medan and House of Ashes, because I enjoy them. And by the time I think too, what kind of helps, since they're short, by the time you kind of realize that maybe it didn't hit the way you maybe hoped it would hit, it's already basically over anyway. So then it's kind of like, and that's why I don't find them like a slog to go through necessarily either, because I'm still curious about where the story's going to go, even if it's, you know, the parts that make up the story aren't like functioning at a super high level or super like, you know, notable or anything like that. Like, I'm still curious, so I'm going to finish it. It's the same reason I finished The Medium just last week, where I'm like, look, is this game good? Honestly, I don't think it is. But I want to see the end. I want to get through to the end, and I did it, and I have no regrets about that. And a lot of people were there too, because I think they also were like, I want to see what happens. I'm like, right, you're curious. And I think its ability to create curiosity is one of its like noteworthy focal points that it does offer.
Yeah. I understand. Like, yeah, we're talking about horror games again, right? And what they do and stuff. And I'm right there with you. Yeah. Huh?
Or it's hard to do, I guess.
Yeah, no, incredibly hard to do, right? I think, you know, people get so hung up on comedy in games because of timing, obviously. I think horror is the same way, where, you know, it's what I like about Dark Pictures Anthology, and, you know, again, it would be a turnoff to so many people, I think, is the fact that it is so linear in the areas. Because I think when you give, like, Until Dawn at times has a big house to explore, which totally grinds the game to a halt of what you're doing. Like, you know, for Little Hope, like, you know, we leave the bar and it's clear I'm supposed to go down this road, but there's one area and I veer off and I found a postcard that, you know, teases what could happen in one of the timelines in one of the futures or whatever. And it's like, all right, cool. That was just enough. And now I'm back on the main plot and I'm going. I haven't stopped the entire play session to, you know, Jen hates watching me play games that I want to platinum. Right. Because, like, you know, in Uncharted or Last of Us Part 2, where it's like, oh, yeah, she's like, I want to watch you play Last of Us Part 2. Yeah, I want to see how the story goes. And then it is that I clear out everybody and I go house by house, underneath beds, underneath things. She's like, what are you doing? I'm like, there could be a trading card, babe. I got to look for it. She's like, get out of here. Stop playing the game this way. Whereas this game, again, is honing itself into being an experience that's quick and something you can get through. I want to call out, you know, I talked about the Metacritics. When I was doing that, I went through and read some reviews. I pulled this from Kimberly Wallace's Game Informer piece that I think lines up with what we're saying. The Game Informer at the time, Kimberly gave Little Hope 7.5 and wrote, Little Hope is inconsistent, like a wish in training, still learning how to fully weave a spell. It sets up its story well and keeps you guessing, but the execution is lacking. It needs more variety and interesting things for your characters to do. The action comes too late, and by then you're already nodding off. However, seeing the fantastic ending makes putting up with those boring moments a little more bearable. And I think that's similar to what you were saying, right? Where it is this conversation or this thing of playing it where it's like, all right, what's going on? What's going on? Like, well, I'm this deep into it. I'm not 100% vested necessarily, but I know that there's only an hour and a half, 2 hours left to go. And then as you play a little bit more, the action kicks up, and then all of a sudden you get to this ending where, like, I'm sitting there going, damn, do I want to replay this game or do I want to go watch it on YouTube? Do I want, you know, like the fact that I actually have questions about the ending. No, I'm not YouTubing. Gonna go do it. You'll see. You'll all see. However, like I said, I apologize to Supermassive for not playing this sooner. For not having, you know, for letting, you know, the general meh impression of it get in the way of a genre I already knew I liked, but I just, you know, had a bad taste in my mouth from Man of Medan. I'm back here. And so what I did this morning is I tweeted out, of course, not telling you that this would be the topic, but hey, what video game do you want to apologize to? I said, hey, Kind of Funny Best Friends, P.S. I love you, XOXO listeners and viewers. What game do you want to apologize to? We're going into the Tree of Trust here. This is a safe spot. This is, you can bare your soul. You can apologize to whoever you want to. And like I said, dozens of you wrote in. We'll start with Benji Bop. Benji Bop writes into patreon.com/kindoffunnygames, just like you can, to be part of the show, and says, I actually want to take this a step further and apologize to a whole studio. I'm sorry, Evolution Studios. Every time my parents went to Target or Walmart around 2006 to 2008, I made a beeline to the video game section and played the MotorStorm demo until I had to be pulled away from the controller. I loved that game. It might be one of my favorite racing games ever. But I never actually bought the game. Never even had a PS3 for that matter. I'm pretty sure my mom tried to buy me that game for the Xbox 360 and ended up with MX versus ATV. But anyways, if Evolution Studios had that extra $60 and presumably that extra $200 or so, counting all the releases after that, and Sony knew they sold another console because of MotorStorm, maybe they would still be around today. Hands up. That one's on me, guys.
It's all their fault.
The whole fall.
But that could have been the one sale, Benji. You know what I mean? If you would have been there, if you would have told your parents.
You know, like it's like, oh no, like the whole thing collapsed.
It sucks, man. Yeah, that was a rough one right there. Tyler wrote in to apologize to The Order 1886. Well, I understand why it went down the way it did. The franchise potential this game had still bums me out. Vampires, Lycans, semi-immortal Knights of the Round Table, but Tesla-powered. Sign me up. I'll echo what plenty of the people have said for years. If the game had been longer or the price had been lower to match the shorter length, I really think the sequel would have opened up the world and expanded on what we got in this game. Or that's just wishful thinking. The game wasn't just great looking. It really went a unique extra step with that cinematic quality we talk so much about with Sony titles. I'm sure I'm part of the minority with this opinion, but I stand by it. So, while we, as the players, definitely deserved more from the Order 1886, the Order and its potential deserved better from Sony/Ready at Dawn. Did you ever play the Order, Jana Garcia?
No, I did not catch it. So I'm also part of the problem.
Well, no. Again, I agree with Tyler here, right? Where it's like, I think Ready at Dawn deserved more. Sony deserved more. It's this weird thing where, the Order was gorgeous and the Order was interesting and the Order was really short and didn't really go anywhere. I thought that when I put that game down, I was like, man, the best thing I can say about the Order story is that the way it ends, I was like, oh man, the Order 2 could be dope. If they were to come back to this,
YouTube and you're like, what are people thinking?
This would be rad, right? And so I think it's a little bit, it's somewhere on the Sony side and the Ready at Dawn side is to see why this game felt so much, like an incomplete line of work, that it didn't deliver the highs I think people wanted. It didn't actually, decide to be this huge franchise that I'm sure PlayStation wanted out of it too. It bums me out too, Tyler. It's a game that could have been something, could have been a contender, but was just what it was, and then was immediately forgotten, and nobody ever talks about it. Jake Bakes Cakes writes into patreon.com/kindoffunnygames and wants to apologize to Knack. I received Knack as a Christmas gift in 2013 alongside my brand new PS4. I was 14 at the time. This was my first game for the new system. Due to it being my first game on the brand new console, I tricked myself into thinking it was good. More importantly, I gaslit Knack into thinking it was good, apparently so well that it got a sequel. I'm sorry, Knack. You didn't deserve to be lied to like that. You didn't deserve to be treated like a quality platformer, nonetheless one with, quote, franchise potential. After playing it again this year for the first time since 2014, I realized you suck. You've always sucked. And I'm sorry I ever let you believe you were more than that. Love your ex-fan, Jake's Bakes Cakes.
Oh, this is giving some real, like Slim Shady Stan energy. Like, dear mister, I'm too, like, I can, like, if you watch that music video, like, that played in my head as you're reading that. Sure. Wow, that was bold to be like, I'm sorry that I thought you were more than you were. It's like, whoa, this is like cutting deep.
That's the thing, is I think honestly Jake owes all of us, an apology. Because we said Knack wasn't that great, and then somehow you guys made a Knack 2 happen. And we had to live through that. And that's, again, one of the reasons that MotorStorm's not around, probably. He's like, oh, we only have so much money to throw around. Let's put it on.
Knack 2 was always going to happen. Mark Cerny really loves Knack. And I'm honestly surprised we haven't gotten an announcement for Knack 3 yet. He's too busy looking at ears.
Yeah, that's how they got him. That's how they got him. Like, the first time around, like, all right, Cerny is going to do this, and he's going to be the architect of this system, and it's gonna be amazing. It's going to be incredible. But he says he'll only do it if you let him make Knack. And they're like, fuck, fine, to make Knack, whatever. And he wants a sequel to, fuck, all right. And then when they get ready for PS5, they were like, what if we sold them on like audio technology? What if we send them photos of people's ears? What if we let that happen instead? And they were like, all right. Cerny was like, I'll do it. I'll do it for that. I'll get a part of that. Kebabs wants to apologize in a similar vein to Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy. I want to apologize, Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy, for lying to it. At the time, I thought it was a fantastic remake that replaced the originals. But after Crash 4 and CTR Nitro Fueled, I've come to see its flaws, like the more difficult jumps, lifeless lighting in 2 and 3, and the inauthentic remakes. I always return to the original PS1 games rather than Insane. I wasn't honest with you in 2017, and I'm sorry about that. Janet,
I'm here for this take. I'm living for this take. It is healing something within me that's been long tormented. Yeah, I cannot stand that trilogy. I thought it was the thing is, it's the hitboxes are weird. And again, like me just on games YouTube, where I did look this up, like, am I the messed up one? Like, is this kind of like not made correctly? And it kind of isn't. Like, it's way too difficult, and not even in a way that replicates the old games. Because I did the same thing where like I went and booted up the old games either before or after like the Insane Trilogy like came out, or I had it, and I was like, yeah, this is like better. It looks worse, you know, and there's probably, I'm sure, elements of the Insane trilogy that are better besides just the graphics. But I was just not a fan at all. So much so to the point where when Crash 4 kind of first came out, I was like, man, I mean, I guess I should try it. Like, I don't know. I was so like, kind of like, I guess you with the, you know, bringing back to like the Little Hope Madame Madon thing. Like, I was so soured by Insane Trilogy that when 4 was dropping, I'm like, man, it's probably just going to be more of the same. And I didn't play for the longest. I didn't start playing it until I think either this year or like late last year, and I still have not finished it. That one I am doing co-op. Another game with great co-op integration where they let you do the pass the controller thing baked in, and it shows your stats after. And like I'm playing with my brother, and we'll do the thing where it's like, okay, well, I mean, you got more boxes, but your turn had more boxes. Like what's you know? Like, I don't know. Who's to say? And they have like those bonus stages, and like also too, I'm so looking forward to beating that game because, and I might have mentioned this on the show before, but you know, me and my brother are both a fan of, you know, Gerard the Completionist, who did that game, which like he talked about how hard that was because it's a brutal platformer. And we're like, okay, as our reward for finishing the game, when we're done, again, I'm just obsessed with YouTube on this episode. Like we're going to go and we're going to watch these videos. I'm going to complete it. Like it's way too hard. They want me to be someone I never have been and may never can become. So it's like, you know what? That's cool. But yeah, the Crash 4 is absolutely fantastic. CPR Nitro Fuel was also great. I reviewed that for IGN and I loved it. But yeah, those are like really quality, and the trilogy really, I was not into the trilogy at all.
Someone pointed out that these apologies are more like something you'd send to your ex. Like if you're like, no, it was actually you. I was wrong about you. So we'll end on 2 ones.
I know it's true with my friendship, you know?
Yeah. 2 positive apologies. All right. We're going to start with Levi, who writes in and says, I need to apologize to Overwatch because after spending a couple years saying, quote, why doesn't it have a campaign? I'm not a multiplayer gamer. I've now spent more time playing Overwatch than any other game I've ever played. That's big of you, Levi, to look past your own biases and understand you were wrong and the game changes you. You didn't change the game changed you. And then in a similar boat, alternate Levi, who I assume is the same Levi, but I don't know. It says alternate Levi, writes in and says on patreon.com/kindafunnygame, my game is Journey. This must be the one game I spent the most time decrying as overhyped and undeserving of its praise based entirely on trailers and basic descriptions of its gameplay. Years were spent sneering at those who heaped praise on it as some sort of masterpiece before I eventually picked it up for the PS4 in 2016 on PlayStation Plus. And on one weekend, in a fit of choice paralysis, decided to give it a go. I was rolling my eyes and scoffing about it and its reputation, even as the game loaded up. 2 to 3 hours later, in one session later, I took it all back. Let me try that again. 2 to 3 hours and one session later, I took it all back. I want to go back and smack my younger self for not only passing up this gorgeous and enthralling miniature adventure, but for also spending so much time heaping abuse on it. Not since this game has anything this length managed to silence me in awe, in visuals, or music like this experience did. I apologize, Journey, for my undeserved blind hate.
I'm always here for a good admission of I had an opinion that was based on nothing. A lot of people do that, but not a lot of people say, all right, I'll be honest, I didn't actually like play this or do this or whatever. And you know, it's funny because like obviously we haven't all played all of everything, but that is why I think it is always important to couch it in what is your background or experience. Like there are games that I feel that way as well, of maybe not as severe where it's like, why is it not like I personally wouldn't go as far to be like, why is this recommended? It's not even that good. If I literally didn't play it just to, you know, cover my ass. And
there's
also
no possible way this game I haven't touched is this good.
Everyone's wrong but me. Somehow. Why are you booing me? I'm right. But yeah, it is cool for you to still finally give it a chance. I also love the image of you almost playing it to be like, let's see what this is. I know it's not gonna be good, but then I'll know that I can like know it's not
trying
good.
to hate play it.
Yeah, the hate play, you know, there's a lot of value in the hate play if you go in with enough of an open mind, because you might come out the other side and be into it. You know, much like the Overwatch story from alternate Levi, if we're doing that kind of verse. But yeah, I barely played Journey. I'm not sure exactly when. It was like a few years ago. It was like way after release. And I kind of went into it being like, everyone says this is like, you know, hot in the streets, and it definitely hit more than I expected it to, but I wasn't as warm on it, and I'm kind of more like, I wouldn't I'm personally not rushing to put it on lists at this point, but I like it as something that's incredibly beautiful. And I do think there's a scene there that really did move me in a way that I was surprised by, given the nature of its storytelling being like non-dialogue, just kind of environmental and musical. I also went in knowing very little about it other than everyone says it's really good. So it was cool playing it with almost no knowledge, because I was like, who's this other person? And like, I had no idea that was like part of like the gameplay and stuff. So yeah, I think personally I'm a big fan of actually playing what people say is like crazy hot in the streets, because a lot of times they're right, and then two, if they're not right, I think that also helps inform like your perception of a console or of the best games from like a developer or a franchise or a publisher or what have you. So I think it's super fun to just do that with what are people saying are the best games for X platform or of all time, and are they to you, and then kind of developing your own list of that.
For sure. And I think it's interesting, for Journey, and then also in the same breath, Dark Pictures Anthology, Little Hope. There's the two sides of the same coin, right? Of a really, really positive opinion and then a negative opinion, right? And then when you come to a game, I can't tell you the amount of times, somebody plays a game ahead of me and is like, dude, this is a game of the year candidate. This is a 10 out of 10. And then I go and play that game and I'm like, this was good. I don't think it was that good, but it's because now suddenly my expectations on this game I didn't have any expectations for were jacked through the roof, right? And then the same of like Little Hope, if I had played that maybe right at launch, would I have had higher expectations, hoping they had, fixed Man of Medan, or the fact that, Lucy gave it a 5? What?
Little hoping that?
Little hoping. All right. Would that have, made it so it would have been easier, more or harder for it to actually, impress me? Yeah. But I don't know. We'll never know. These were good apologies. Janet, do you want to apologize to any games or studios while you're here?
Oh, I want to apologize to Horizon Zero Dawn for not playing it yet. Because it came out during Breath of the Wild, and I was like, nah, I don't have time. And then the pages kept falling off the calendar. And then it got to the point where it's like, well, maybe I can have time, but well, one, it's still a lot of time. And then two, it's like, well, what's the rush, right? And now that there's finally sequels coming out for both of those games, it's like, okay, let's try to actually start polishing up this backlog a little bit. But other than that, I'm trying to think if there's ones that like I didn't like and then got into.
That was a good one. That was a good poll.
Yeah, and I think part of me does. I'm up for debate on if I do Uncharted 4 and also Lost Legacy as a follow up.
Fucking do Uncharted 4.
I don't know. The thing is, I feel like at this point it's my fault, right? Like I feel like I'm setting myself up to be mad, and then y'all get mad because I'm mad. I feel like, why are we doing this dance anymore?
You're like, I know what this game is. Like, why? Like,
let me know in the comments. Would you be more annoyed if I played it and didn't like it, or if I just never played it? Let me know. I don't really care either way, but I'm curious because that's where I'm at. Where every time I played one of these games, people were like, Uncharted's dope. And I played the first one, and I had a lot of fun with it, and then it kept going, and I was like, eh. And then they're like, okay, yeah, you're right, but 2. And I was like, cool, run it back. And I was like, it had this situation. They're like, yeah, but 3. And then I did it again, and now it feels like I feel like I'm the one just falling for the hoax each time. And then
only once.
Yeah.
People are like, Lost Legacy is better than 4. Some people, right? That's up for debate. So it's like, do I jump to do I jump to Lost Legacy? Do I skip 4? Do I do both? And just at least now we know, like I know what I feel and think for these things. I don't really know anymore.
Do both. For me personally, I would say like at least give it a chance, and if you hate it, you hate it. But like give it a chance. And like Janet, I'm kind of with you though. I'm kind of with you, and I know this is a hot take that I've said before. Uncharted wasn't as great as people said it was until Uncharted 4. And that's all I'll say.
Bold take. I would say, so my advice for you, because I hate, hey, I don't like this game. Oh, but you like this one. I didn't like that game. Well, you like there has to come a time where you I'm looking out for myself in my own time. I'm not playing all this stuff. But Lost Legacy being shorter and a more condensed experience, I'd be interested to have you play that and see and especially shifting it off of Nate's shoulders. If that is still one where you're like, this just ain't for me, then don't bother, with Uncharted 4. Don't bother wasting your time going back to it. See if that shakes it up.
We'll see what I do.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to shake it up, you can go to patreon.com/kindafunnygames. Of course, there you can write in to be part of the show. You can get the show with the exclusive post show we do. You can be watching live as we record it, like Dave Goldstein is, Madeline Stanley is, my dog Nick 96R. Of course, though, if you were there, you can get the show ad free. Speaking of ads, Greg Way, let's hear from this week's sponsors. This podcast is brought to you by ExpressVPN. Guess what? You're on the internet and people are always trying to get into your data, so hide your data from them, right? Using the internet without ExpressVPN is like taking a call on a train or a bus on a speaker for everyone to hear. So I'll say what I'd say to anyone putting a private call on speaker in public transport. Don't be that person. Internet service providers like Comcast or Verizon know every single website you visit. And in the US, they can legally sell this information to ad companies and tech giants who then use your data to target you. ExpressVPN creates a secure, encrypted tunnel between your device and the internet so people can't peep your online activity. Just fire up the app and click one button. It works on phones, laptops, even routers. So everyone who shares your Wi-Fi can be protected. Secure your online activity today with expressvpn.com/kindafunny and get an extra 3 months free. That's expressvpn.com/kindafunny, expressvpn.com/kindafunny. Our next sponsor is Upstart. So many Americans experienced financial hardship in the last year. Upstart can help you regain your footing and get things back on track. Upstart is the fast and easy way to pay off your debt with an online personal loan. Whether it's paying off credit cards, consolidating high interest debt, or funding personal expenses, over 500,000 people have used Upstart to get one fixed monthly payment. Upstart knows you're more than just your credit score and is expanding access to affordable credit. Unlike other lenders, Upstart considers your income and current employment to find you a smarter rate for your loan. You can receive funds as fast as 1 business day after accepting your loan. Find out how Upstart can lower your monthly payments today when you go to upstart.com/kindafunny. That's upstart.com/kindafunny. Don't forget to use our URL to let them know we sent you. Loan amounts will be determined based on your credit, income, and certain other information provided in your loan application. Go to upstart.com/kindafunny. And our final sponsor of the day is Credit Karma Money. Credit Karma has always been there to help you make better financial decisions, and now they want to help you even more. With a Credit Karma Money Spend account, you can be rewarded for good money habits. Credit Karma Money is a brand new checking account where you can win cash reimbursements for making purchases. There's no minimum balance requirements, no overdraft fees, and free withdrawals from a network of over 50,000 ATMs. And when you make a purchase between July 1st and July 23rd, you'll be automatically entered to win $1 million. Right now, visit creditkarma.com/win money to open your free account and start winning instant karma. Go to creditkarma.com/win money to sign up for free and start winning instant karma. That's creditkarma.com/win money. Instant Karma is sponsored by Credit Karma. No purchase necessary. Exclusions and terms apply. See rules. Banking services provided by MVB Bank Incorporated, member FDIC. Maximum balance and transfer limits apply. Again, creditkarma.com/win money. All right, Janet. It's time for PlayStation updates. Are you ready for your greatest hits of PlayStation news for the week?
Always.
All right. This is another one where we didn't plan ahead because we don't plan ahead on this show. We just jump out and go together, and I like that a lot. The first one is long, and I was going to condense it as I read it. So I'll start there, and then we can just hand the baton back and forth. How's that sound?
Sure.
So we're going to start with, is PlayStation about to make Netflix games? Of course, at Bloomberg this past week, the general story hit that Netflix is getting into games. It was reported by Lucas Shaw and Mark Gurman. Netflix Incorporated, marking its first big move beyond TV shows and films, is planning an expansion into video games and has hired a former Electronic Arts Incorporated and Facebook Incorporated executive to lead the effort. Mike Verdu will join Netflix as vice president of game development, reporting to the person that doesn't matter for this story. Verdu was previously Facebook's vice president in charge of working with developers to bring games and other content to Oculus virtual reality headsets. The idea is to offer video games on Netflix's streaming platform within the next year, according to a person familiar with the situation. The games will appear alongside current fare, such as current fare as a new programming genre, similar to what Netflix did with documentaries or stand-up specials. The company currently doesn't plan to charge extra for the content, said the person, who asked not to be identified because deliberations are private. Netflix will be building out its gaming team in the coming months, according to a person familiar with the matter. The company has already started advertising for game development-related positions on its website. Netflix has previously licensed game rights to games based on the shows, including Stranger Things, but the new initiative is much larger in scope. The Los Gatos, California-based company has yet to settle on a game development strategy, said the person. In typical Netflix fashion, the company may start with just a few games and build out from there. Netflix also has made earlier forays into it. This is about the actual stuff they've done before, which you don't need to worry about. That was all well and good, but then just 2 days later, Barrett, I have this here for Please Show. PlayStation, is it coming to Netflix? Chris Scullion over at VGC reported on it there, and this goes this way. Imagery from PlayStation products have reportedly been found in the Netflix app code. The images show a render of 2 DualSense controllers, artwork from Ghost of Tsushima, a logo that says End Games, and a shark icon. Data miner Steve Mosier claims that Shark is the current working name of Netflix's gaming functionality and states that the presence of PlayStation imagery could indicate a partnership between Netflix and Sony, which may see PlayStation games being offered through Netflix in some way. In April, Netflix agreed to a multi-year U.S. licensing deal granting it exclusive rights to house Sony Pictures Entertainment, SPE, films following their theatrical and home entertainment release windows. Building on Netflix's pre-existing deal with Sony Pictures Animation Films, the agreement gives the streaming giant exclusive first pay window rights to SPE movies beginning with its 2021 film slate, including the upcoming Uncharted movie. Netflix announced earlier this week that it had appointed the thing I just read about up there, right? Axios gaming reporter Stephen Totilo added on Twitter that the latest information he had was that Netflix was planning to offer downloadable games rather than game streaming. Janet Garcia, what the hell is going on at Netflix? Is PlayStation about to have PlayStation games on Netflix?
It looks like the Dark Pictures anthology is going to have some competition with choice-driven stuff. But no, I mean, that is what I think is what seems like the easier thing to do. Again, with the big asterisk of making games or making anything is not really easy, but it feels like that would be the lean in to go with. I find it hard to believe that you'd be downloading games from Netflix. Like, it just seems like that's kind of opening a can of worms to a lot of things, especially if they're looking to essentially roll it into the existing like membership tiers they already have. It just doesn't seem like it'd be financially viable for either party, or at least not most beneficial. I think also a big part of this is intrigue and acquisition. I feel like creating games that are, just, I guess, easier to jump into if you haven't played games. Like, if you're a Netflix subscriber and you're not a gamer, I don't see you being like, I'm going to now just get a controller and just start totally. Like traversing entire areas that I've never done before. But I do see you maybe, being the person yelling, making the choices, picking up your remote and kind of selecting things, and then maybe saying, oh, I can get the full version of this on PlayStation, or I can follow this character's journey on PlayStation or whatever. So I could see it as more of like a fulcrum than a standalone experience. I also think too, like with the rumors, at least, there's a lot of conversations around, well, what about like PS Now and everything? And it wouldn't ever shock me if they abandoned that system, because I feel like there are a lot of problems with it, but I'd be really surprised if they did that, like for something like this.
It still does so well for them, even though Game Pass gets all the headlines.
Yeah, like I think they're too similar. Like in the rumor description, it's a little too similar to PS Now, where I don't think that part makes sense. Also, again, that's a service they like charge for kind of separately. It's not rolled into this other thing. So that's kind of where I see it, as like Dark Pictures competition.
Yeah, the thing I had admitted from the Bloomberg one, if you weren't familiar, Netflix has also made earlier forays into interactive programming, such as choose your own adventure style shows. It created versions of programs like Carmen Sandiego and Black Mirror in that format, which stopped short of being a true video game. I think that's Bloomberg putting it on them. I could see, it's what we've talked about on Games Daily, right? I think it's either all placeholder, this, hey, we're doing a mock-up of the app and we want to show it so people understand it. So rather than make dummy content in terms of what this is, we're going to use Ghost of Tsushima as a logo. We're going to put the DualSense controllers in there or whatever, even though it's a render. Or it is the fact that, yeah, maybe it's going to be a Ghost of Tsushima Netflix edition. They wouldn't call it that, but it would be Ghost of Tsushima : whatever Jin's up to. And it is a shorter thing where, yeah, you're making choices like Bandersnatch or whatever. Sorry, what were you saying there?
Like a director's cut, basically. Netflix.
A Netflix cut. The Netflix cut.
Yes.
Exactly.
The Netflix games. Netflix is the Netflix of games.
I'm with you that I don't see how, and again, I'm short-sighted and don't understand technology, but for Steven adding in, Netflix was planning to offer downloadable games rather than game streaming. It's just like, who the fuck is this for, and what is this, and how is it going to work, and is it only going to be on PC? Can my TV Netflix app download a real game? No, I don't think so, unless it's super small. So it's like, what are we getting into and what this is actually going to look like? I don't know.
Maybe the game would be really small, because you can download Bandersnatch. I'm pretty sure the way you can download anything else for we all have that like pre-playing ritual of like, let me download all the things I want. And like, also, please let me know if y'all also forget to do that until like the last possible second, where I'm like in the airport, like, come on, like, and then
let me connect to this Wi-Fi that's like spotty.
I've been on the plane before. I'm not joking. I've been on the plane, like, please grab the Spotify playlist, and then it grabs like only half the songs, so it's like a very selective experience that's left. But
my question is, like, would that be a thing that can happen on like Netflix apps on TVs and stuff? Because I don't think you can like download stuff on there. It's only mobile devices that you can really download stuff.
Yeah, I don't think on my TV app there's no download this for later use or for when you're offline or something like that. Yeah, so I don't understand how they do this or what it would be. But I think that's part of the
mobile thing.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, maybe it is just a PC extension, right, or a mobile extension of what you can do with it and where you go from it. But I don't know, and I'm fascinated to see what it's actually going to look like and what they'll do with it, because I don't think anybody's got it right. I can't imagine it's what we're talking about, where it's just like, yeah, choose your own adventure kind of versions of games. Maybe the first load is or whatever, and I also can't imagine that it's full games. You download Ghost of Tsushima. Like, I feel like there's got to be some Netflix version of this. I don't think Netflix, for whatever you think of them now, I guess, it did revolutionize the way we rent movies and consume content, right? And so I don't see them entering the video game space and having it be cool. Now just link your controller to your Netflix thing and it's going to be playing games you can play on your PlayStation. Like, there has to be something unique there, right? That's got to be what they're chasing.
I think too, one idea for like, if we're just putting on our like conspiracy theory speculation caps, is that they do something that's like sort of neither of those, where it's almost like a rental service or demos for things, and they kind of become a little bit like GameFly, but like not to the full extent of like what GameFly offers. Or if they did, if we're really like going crazy and say, yeah, they're gonna have like full on games, like you could get Ghost of Tsushima like straight up the regular one that we know on there. I think it would be like very limited time access, kind of like when you rent something on like Amazon or wherever, where it's like, okay, you got 48 hours with this, where most people wouldn't actually beat the game and not buy the game as a result of this, but just enough people will be like kind of interested, or the few people that beat it, okay, fine, they want to be like a psychopath and just try to really like max out, which I've been that person too. I've Redboxed I played Spider-Man PS4. I Redboxed that game, I beat it, I gave it back. I beat that game for $7, and that's why I don't have the platinum in that game. I did the same thing for Resident Evil 7, it's basically all the 7s, basically Resident Evil, and a couple other games too, until like I think Redbox doesn't do that anymore. So I could see them maybe doing something like that. But again, from a technological standpoint, I feel like they wouldn't be able to do that. But also, I wouldn't know if I didn't know anyway, because I don't know enough tech to assess that situation to begin with.
Interesting. I don't know. I want to know what it's going to be, but we'll see what it actually shakes out.
I'm excited for it to shake out. Speaking of which, we got more media stuff with the Last of Us HBO news. Casting info from Denise Petsky over at Deadline, which reads as follows. Jeffrey Pierce, the voice of Tommy in the Last of Us video game series, is set to recur as a different character opposite Pedro Pascal, Bella Ramsey, and Gabrielle Luna in HBO's high-profile series adaptation of the Sony PlayStation franchise. Maury Bartlett and Con O'Neill have also joined the cast of The Last of Us, from Chernobyl creator Craig Mazin and Neil Druckmann, based on, Naughty Dog's game. Y'all already know what it is. If you know, you know. This takes place. Yep, we already know the drama that goes down. Joel Pascal, a hardened survivor. Yep, hires to smuggle Ellie Ramsey, 14-year-old girl, out of the oppressive quarantine zone to the Fireflies, cure search organization. You already know how it goes, etc., etc. Pierce will recur, and if you don't know, spoilers. Pierce will recur. What happens after that? You got to play to find out, or just watch this. Maybe Pierce will recur as Perry, a rebel in the quarantine zone. Bartlett guest stars as Frank, and O'Neill is Bill. Two post-pandemic survivalists living alone in their own isolated town. And then we also have some like pricing breakdown on how much stuff costs from Adele Anchors over at IGN. That reads as follows. HBO's Last of Us TV adaptation is said to have a budget that, quote, well exceeds the 8-figure per episode mark, likely making it the largest project shooting in Canada. That's pretty wild to conceptualize. Damian Petty, president of IATSE 212 Artists Union, wouldn't confirm the precise budget numbers for the project to CTV News, though he estimated each episode to be costing more than 8 figures. A minimum, the 8-figure sum would mean that it's costing $10 million per episode, but he indicates that it's actually significantly more than that. Quote, I cannot confirm the official budget numbers, but will say it is likely the largest project shooting in Canada, he told the outlet. This project well exceeds the 8-figure, number, et cetera, of that deadline. So it's expensive. And also it's weird that it does trip me out a little bit to have Tommy not be Tommy. Like, I don't know, like that kind of...
Especially with Merle being in there, in Merle's test, right? Like,
yeah, like, I mean, I'm sure it'll... I feel like confident in the performances from like those people that it'll all shake out. And it's like, okay, how much am I really going to pick up on that or notice that anyway? But it is kind of trippy to be like, oh yeah, he's back. But it's different. And then from a price standpoint, I mean, I am a little surprised just based on the flex of like most expensive thing in Canada. I'm like, that sounds expensive, but again, it's HBO. So, it's going to be like big budget over the top, have star power. And hopefully with all those things comes the quality too. That's the real question on how that's going to shake out.
Yeah, I feel like it's becoming a weekly segment here where I come out and I say that I think Last of Us is going to be fantastic. I think this keeps lining up.
Mention, I was reading the comments on that, and people mentioned Castlevania, the Castlevania series.
Yeah,
and how
I saw that. But as usual, cartoons don't count. All right?
Hey.
Cartoons don't count.
Hey, Greg. Fuck you.
People also were quick to call out Sonic the Hedgehog the movie. And I was like, that was a good movie. You're right. It's not as bad as it was.
Should we specify live action adaptation?
I mean, sure. No, I think this is going to be better than Castlevania, but I'm not a Castlevania fan. I know that Castlevania is good, but it's not much.
Sonic the Hedgehog is my journey in the sense that I didn't watch it, so I don't know if it's actually good, but I feel like it wouldn't be that good. But I actually don't know.
Sonic the Hedgehog was a lot of fun.
Maybe it's hot fire. I didn't know. I didn't catch it, but...
Yeah. Sonic the Hedgehog was good. We like Sonic the Hedgehog around here, right, Barrett? Did you see it? You like it?
Yeah, it was a fun time watching with the wife.
I forget what did they say? They did a whole review. I'm gonna call old Snake Bite Eyes Blessing Eddie Oye Jr. and see what he says about this. And he's on vacation or with a snake that bit him. They're trying to reconcile the relationship, but I think
you
could
hear
probably
that the snake's got Mike today too.
No.
Yeah, a lot of people were wondering why he wasn't on stream.
This infestation.
Snake's got his eyes.
Worse.
Yeah.
Because I want an official sign off from a Sonic expert. I don't want to just say that I think, because I enjoyed Sonic.
I wonder what his voicemail is if it goes to voicemail.
Just the rings from Sonic.
When you call Sonic, does he answer? Does he pick up the call?
This is a huge miss for somebody who claims to be the biggest Sonic fan. You guys want this guy to be king of Halloween?
He's screening the call. He's like, do I want to talk to Greg right now?
Please leave your message for 2.
No customized. I think
oh my God.
Custom. I think blessings. We don't have custom voicemails anymore. Do you remember, holding the phone up to the radio and being like, "Hey, this is so and so." Like, I miss that era.
I had the announcer of the Missouri Tigers record mine, and he was nice because I fucked it up 3 different times. Because when's the last time you recorded your voicemail? So, and this is years ago too. So I the first time he did it, I hung up, and then I was like, wait, and it didn't save. And the second time I hit a 2 instead of 1 or something. It was a whole thing. It was a whole fucking thing. You know what I mean? If you want to know what Blessing thinks of Sonic, you can go to the review. No, there's a review on Kind of Funny. I seem to remember them liking it.
Dialing numbers.
They all dressed up for it. Remember?
I try to black that part out.
Yeah.
Back to Last of Us on HBO. Yeah, I can't wait for the show. I think it's gonna be great. I'm with you. For me with Jeffrey Pierce, with all due respect to Jeffrey Pierce, Tommy, I know, obviously, but I don't think I have such a strong connection to Tommy that when Jeffrey Pierce shows up in the show, I'm like, Tommy. You know what I mean? Where I think it's like, that's it. It'd be different if I don't even know. Because I guess if Ashley showed up, and she will, I'm sure she'll have something go on there, right? But it was like, I don't know what it would be. I think Merle's a great example of it, where she's she's testing the game, she's testing the show, it's tests everywhere. That's good enough. You know what I mean? Let's go with that one. And then I'm interested, of course, to see the O'Neill being Bill here and see what that's going to happen in their own time. And Frank, of course, a character we know from the game but don't know from the game.
Yeah, I think what's so exciting here too is the potential of, and they've we've covered this in previous stories about the Last of Us HBO series, but the potential for really diving more into these characters, because that's what's probably one of the biggest compliments I can give to The Last of Us is pretty much every character that you meet feels interesting and they're well written and they're fleshed out. So it's like, okay, the idea of diving deeper into the ancillary stuff a lot of times is like, well, if it was so great, it would have just been main stuff. But so many of those characters hit that I can't wait to see more from them.
Yeah, 100%. The next one, catching up on all the PlayStation news. First off, I'll toss this out there. While we were live here, Wario64 tweets, PlayStation Direct will have another invite-only PS5 stock tomorrow at 12 p.m. Pacific time. So if you are listening to this show, as it goes live, ladies and gentlemen, you are 6 hours away. And I guess now it'd be more like 5.5 probably, as we've been going for a while, from being able to get them. Now, this is one of those ones where they invite you through your PlayStation email address. So look there. But on top of this, Wario continues. Last couple times had no public queue, but if they ever do one again, it would be in the afternoon around 2 p.m. Pacific. So if you're still looking for your PlayStation 5, check your email, maybe check the direct site around then. Janet, can you believe it's still so hard to get a PlayStation 5?
No, it's kind of wild. And I feel like I realized today that I'm finally understanding what people are feeling, because I feel this way about the Steam Deck, where I'm like, oh, maybe I should get it just in case. What if when I want it, I won't be able to get it? And that's a fear I've never had before.
Sure.
And I feel like, oh, wow, this is what everyone else has been feeling for a long time. And I'm just barely feeling it because I'm like privileged as hell and already have all my consoles. But I worked so hard to have everything. That way I don't have to like have these concerns that I'm like, do I want to do that extra hustle? I don't want to do it, but I might have to. Yeah, I do think this the stock shortage does also make me wonder, like, if I should ever jump on like any of those, if anyone else in like my household needs a PS5 or wants a PS5, like how hard that'll be to end up getting if they ever did want one. Not that they don't have access to the one I have or the one my boyfriend has, but
sure, it's that thing. I think you see so many in our industry, if they get the invite, go do it, and then just be like, hey, I got a PlayStation 5, who needs one? Because it's that hard right now.
That you work with too. Like I'm on teams where like there's still plenty of people that don't have a PS5. Like it's hard to get.
Yeah. And it's not so much, I mean, global pandemic, yada, 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 but it's just more the idea of like, man, it's still going on. 2021. This is what's happening. Crazy. Speaking crazy, Ghostwire Tokyo has been delayed as well. So were Riders Republic and Rainbow Six Extraction, but this is a PlayStation show, so we're talking about the exclusive PlayStation one. The statement from Tango Gameworks reads like this. We've made the difficult decision to delay the launch of Ghostwire Tokyo to early 2022. We want to get the game in your hands as soon as possible so you can experience the unforgettable version of a haunted Tokyo that we've been hard at work on and building. I screwed all that up, but it's similar to what I said. At the same time, we're also focused on protecting the health of everyone at Tango. Our new release window will give us time to bring the world of Ghostwire to life as we've always envisioned it. Thank you for being patient as we work to bring you an experience unlike anything we've ever made. We can't wait to show you more in the coming months. Janet, what is your hype level for Ghostwire Tokyo?
I'm really excited for it, but I will say with this, like, this delay does hit negatively because one, they always kind of do. Because it's like, okay, you still have to wait. Even if the waiting's warranted, like even if it's the right move, it kind of sucks. And mostly it's because like, okay, another piece of what could make 2021 like a PlayStation banger has fallen to the wayside kind of situation for me. But on the positive, 2022 could be very stacked. Like thinking of like the other kind of ones that are sort of floating in the wind with God of War, most likely, that's already 2022, and then Horizon. I don't know. I mean, I would be very shocked if it came out in 2021. So it is looking like 2022 is going to be more of a stacked year than this one is. Not that we haven't had amazing experiences on PlayStation this year, or that we won't get more, but to know this is one that we won't get is like, oh man, like this could have been really cool.
Yeah, and that's the thing where this announcement came out, and for me, it was very much like, oh, were people still believing that was going to be this year? Like when you don't hear from a game for so long, and like we've seen so little. I mean, we've seen more for Ghostwire, and I think Ghostwire sounds awesome and looks cool. But not having seen more at this point, I was like, okay, well, this isn't happening this year, and I think it makes sense to me in terms of like, all right, cool, like. Of course, these are Bethesda games, right? Or, ZeniMax games, or whatever you want to say. So even though they're Xbox now, these are the exclusives that are coming from them over here. And it is that idea of like, well, all right, cool. Let Deathloop have its moment. And that's coming out in September. I think for both of these being new IPs, both of these being things I'm sure you want to sell, you want to actually have people play, it's best not to have them step all over each other. And so, yeah, you let Deathloop come out this year and get this out next year and be fine.
Yeah, should be all right.
And then you want to do this final one?
Yeah. Rumor for how long is Ghost of Tsushima's director's cut, New Island, which we were just talking about, I think last episode or 2 episodes ago. This comes from PSU.com's Michael Haradens, who writes, according to a QA tester, the upcoming Iki Island featured in Ghost of Tsushima director's cut will add about 15 to 20 hours of gameplay into the mix. I think want to get just a rumor. We don't know if it's true or not. Maybe this QA tester is just playing through it really slowly. That's obviously a joke. I'm sure they have an awareness of the actual like length of things from, you know, the actual studio and all that. But I mean, if that's true, that's a really sizable, that's like a pretty big expansion, I would say.
100%. Yeah, that gets me so stoked. Again, like you said, it's a rumor. I hadn't seen anybody else report on it since this broke, and I tagged it on a Games Daily. But I like it here because it begs the question of, yeah, if it's 15 to 20 hours, do you think that justifies either the $20 or $30 increase depending on where you play it, Janet? Yeah.
Only you can answer that. I mean, I think again, if you like it, sure. Like I would pay so much more for some games that I've loved, and I also feel like maybe I shouldn't have bought various games that I didn't end up liking, right? Like, and you know, that happened to me just earlier this year with like taking a flyer on you know, Pokemon Snap, a game I thought I would really love, and then I didn't, and it's like it just shakes out that way sometimes. So I think you have to just, you know, use your best judgment with it. Certainly if length is a determining factor for you, well, I guess if it is that deep, just wait until like the reviews come out or it comes out, and then you'll know. But if you like the game, yeah, and you know, and you're okay with the price point, I think it's totally worth it. And then certainly if you haven't gotten to it yet, I think it's a good time to like jump in with that expanded content and just, you know, have more options to experience it if you do end up falling in love with it.
Yeah. I again have been very loud from the announcement of this. This is exactly the kind of content I want out of them, and so I was expecting, and again, rumors, you know, best case 7 hours, and then if I was getting you know, crazy about it, 10 hours. So if it's 15 to 20 out on this new island and stuff, I'm super stoked for that, and I think it totally justifies the price, and I'm stoked for it.
Yeah.
Let's find out if you're stoked for any of the games coming out this week, Ms. Garcia. This is PlayStation Picks, where we highlight some cool looking games coming to PSN this week. We're starting with Ender Lilies, Quietus of the Nights, coming to PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4 this Tuesday. Long ago, in the distant reaches of Land's End, an unforeseen rainfall transformed all living things into frenzied, undead monstrosities known as the Blighted. Faced with a calamity far beyond their understanding, the kingdom fell into ruin with no end to the accursed rain in sight. Unravel the mystery of the kingdom destroyed by the rain of death. Journey through the sprawling and hauntingly beautiful Land's End, traversing a submerged forest, a sealed-off contaminated underground cavern, and a grand castle. Formidable bosses await that will gladly claim your life given even the slightest chance. Defeat these powerful foes and release them from their unending curse to recruit them as allies. Overcome the challenges before you to search for the truth with powerful knights at your side. Meanwhile, in the remnants of this devastated land, a young woman named Lily awakens from the depths of a church. As you see it play out here in front of you, if you are one of the visual listeners, it looks pretty dope, Janet.
Yeah, I like the art style and just generally like the 2D direction. I personally kind of enjoy when stuff's a little bit more streamlined gameplay wise. Like it's like I enjoy having a nice like linear progression situation, and the monochromaticness is pretty cool when contrasted with like the bursts of color from like different like enemy projectiles or even just like to denote different areas. One of my pet peeves in games is when all the areas look the same. So like being able to like, you know, cue or like show off that there's different spaces with different coloring and all that is pretty cool.
If you have been waiting for the PlayStation version of it, right now this sits with an 86 on Metacritic based on the Switch version. It has been out on other platforms for a little bit, so it seems like it's pretty cool, pretty great. Black and white, side scroller, or not side scroller, but you know, 2D beat 'em up.
Right? It seems like
yeah, exactly. I go through and fight some stuff. Up next then is Last Stop. This comes to PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4 Thursday. 3 entangled stories, 1 unforgettable adventure. A video game about secret lives, the ties that bind, and how magic can be found in the mundane. Last Stop is a single-player, third-person adventure set in present-day London. Written and developed by Variable State, creators of the award-winning Virginia, Last Stop tells 3 interconnected tales featuring 3 playable main characters. I cannot fucking wait, Janet.
Me too. This is on my like most anticipated games of the year list. Again, I love story stuff. You love story stuff. It's also really good to have another like aggressively pro story person in games because I feel like it just doesn't get enough love in general. And I think this looks really cool. I'm also a huge fan of either unconventional narrative structure or this kind of idea of piecemealing different storylines and then kind of converging them or seeing how they impact other ones. Like I think so many games have done that in cool and interesting ways. And it's one of those things where like, could this fail? Of course, because anything can fail. But if it does, I want to see the details of that, right? What went right? What went wrong? What did I like about it? What did I want from it? Like, where does it go? Like, I'm all in on this. So yeah, I'm really excited to play this when it comes out.
Yeah, I can't wait. Thursday can't get here soon enough. I really, really dug Virginia. Easy platinum, which was great, but also a really fun story to play through. And I thought it was really creatively done to see this and have it be voice acted and not know anything other than the, 3 interconnected stories, magic in the world or whatever. Like, let's go see what that's all about.
It's a story where I don't have to read? Yes, like, let's go.
I hate reading.
It gets rough. It gets rough sometimes.
And then the final one I have here for things to keep your eyes out for this week is Orcs Must Die 3. Comes out Friday. Orcs Must Die 3 ushers orc slaying mayhem to a previously unimaginable scale. Solo or with a friend by your side, arm yourself with a massive arsenal of traps and weapons. Slice, burn, toss, and zap hordes of repugnant orcs in this long-awaited successor to the award-winning series. I put this on here because I know some people like Orcs Must Die. I don't know who they are, and I feel like I've heard about Orcs Must Die 3 for 15, 20 years. Like this game pops up all the time in different trailers, at different things, on different shows. I will be excited for it to be out, and I hope it, with all due respect to them, they just stop making trailers for it.
That's fair. I'm also not an orcs person, so
it's everywhere.
They're out there somewhere. They're not here, but they're out there.
They're out there, and they're buying the game enough to get it to a third one. So go
having a good time.
Now it's time for what you've been playing, because we haven't been playing Orcs Must Die 1 or 2. So it's time to talk about what we're playing. But I want to start in a special place, ladies and gentlemen. I want to start with the one and only boss baby, Barrett Courtney. Barrett, you got to play Psychonauts 2. The embargo lifted today. Of course, the XCast posting on Saturday will be a giant Psychonauts 2 expose of all of you guys playing it and having your thoughts. But I want you to give me tip of the sword, Barrett. How is Psychonauts 2 shaping up?
As someone who's new to the Psychonauts franchise, I tried to play the first one a few times and finally dedicated myself to actually completing the first one earlier this year to prepare for the sequel, because any time that Psychonauts 2 pops up at any event with a new trailer, it looks so good, so charming. With all of that, like playing this roughly 4.5 hour preview build, we got to see a lot from this preview, and I couldn't stop grinning the entire time playing this game. It is so charming. It has a lot of that like PS2 era kind of what's it called? 3D platformer charm, and just like the worlds that like Tim Schafer and co create, the worlds, the characters, the worlds inside the characters, and all of that are just, they're so good at what they do, and they're so fun, and they're so imaginative. Like I'll pull up some footage that I have here of like one of the first levels where you're actually inside the mind of one of the villains from the very first game.
The dentist guy, right?
Yeah, the dentist guy. And you're trying to kind of incept information out of him, and the mission kind of goes wrong. And then his world gets super warped into like all of this stuff with teeth, and it looks really weird, but it's just like one of those like weird fantastical things that you can't help but like be in awe of just like how weird and fun and silly it can get.
This is a demo, or not this exact section, but we had been, one of the first demos I ever saw for Psychonauts 2 was this thing of going through the teeth in his mind or whatever, and like everyone in the room was like visibly uncomfortable when they started doing a lot of the teeth stuff. And they were like, "Oh, I just
tried not to think about it when playing it." I was like, I know in reality, like if I think about this more, I'm gonna get really freaked out. So I'm just gonna pretend that I'm just platforming on regular platforms and not teeth. And so there's so many worlds like that. We got to see a little bit more than just that first level. Like if hold on, let's see. Like they get super creative with everything. Like the first game, and like one of the levels we got to see, there's like a person dealing with a lot of anxiety, and in their head that kind of permeates into this like stressful cooking show that they're on, that they have to compete in, and just like the way it all works, and like how they tie that into gameplay and stuff is really fun and creative. And even like just how they're able to talk about mental health, and at the same time of introducing you to like new abilities and ways to traverse around. I always thought, like, even for the first game that came out in 2005, I thought was really impressive for the time of like what they were able to do. And like now in 2021, having all of the resources and even more talented people working on stuff like this, I was really in awe of just like all of the stuff that they're doing in every facet of the story that they're telling overall, and the mini stories that we got to see. And so Yeah, I absolutely loved it. It's one of those things after playing so much of it. We had Phil Spencer on last week on Gamescast, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I got to play a preview build of Psychonauts," and I stopped myself because I was already in. I felt that way as well. Where like after the first level, I was like, I could stop here, and I want to stop here, but as someone who is like collecting footage for our preview event, I was like, I can't. I have to keep going, and I have to capture everything that I can, and that's like a mindset that I learned from IGN, and thankfully don't have to do too much for Kind of Funny. But I wanted to do this this preview kind of event correctly.
So, my question for you would be, as somebody who just played through Psychonauts 1, and now basically you step out of the time machine and you play Psychonauts 2 in 2021, is it like there's such a difference between a game from 2005 versus a game from today? Like, is it still being Psychonauts, like obviously that it feels and looks like Psychonauts, but does it feel like a modern thing, or does it feel like you're playing a throwback? Like where is Psychonauts 2 on that scale?
That's an interesting question, and that's one that I've been thinking about a lot too, because it is very, like I said earlier, it's like it is very much of that like PS2 platformer. And even though I didn't play Psychonauts when it originally came out, like I did play a lot of 3D platformers at the time. Like, it's a joke, but like I do love SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom and games of that ilk where it's just like just fun, like just fun 3D platforming kind of stuff. And to that extent, I think it carries that legacy of like I think people that are Jen and my age, like roughly that age of like what those games that we grew up with. I think it holds that legacy, but modernizes it just enough to not make it feel like I'm going back to something too old. There are just like little improvements here and there that make handling Raz much more controllable. Because like playing the first one for the first time like fully this year, there were a lot of like levels where I was really abusing Raz's levitation ability and like really abusing some like level design stuff and like really fucking with a lot of that, and like seeing just like the little updates they made to some of the gameplay mechanics of things that we saw in the past game and like how they transformed that into this modern one, I thought were really impressive and made it feel like knowing that era of game and like getting thrown back to that era of game, but not feeling like I'm playing like the SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom rehydrated remaster where it's like a 1-to-1, like this is an exact copy of the PS2 game, just with like prettier visuals or whatnot. I thought it was really impressive of the updates gameplay wise that they've been able to make, and I'm excited to see like even more of probably stuff that we haven't seen yet. So yeah.
Oh sure. And then I know again, deep dive on XCast this Saturday. Everybody give it a listen.
We'll give like really in-depth thoughts. Mike Paris and I all got to play the preview, and so we'll give like super in-depth thoughts. We'll go really in-depth with like the nitty-gritty of like things that they've updated, things we're excited about, maybe some cool Easter eggs that I noticed that I'm very excited about, and I'm very excited for people to experience on their own. I won't spoil things.
Twitter.com, the one and only Paris Lilly from the XCast is teasing, of course, maybe a special guest, but he's following up that very tweet with this. I can say in my few hours of playing Psychonauts 2 is shaping up to be in the discussion for Game of the Year. The level design, the writing, the music, all A+. Mr. Barrett Courtney from Kind of Funny, PS I Love You, XOXO, and of course everything else you record, and XCast and everything else. Would you agree with that? Is this a Game of the Year contender?
For the like, if I'm trying to guess of like how the industry as a whole will respond to it, and like if like other outlets will consider it for Game of the Year, will it be at the Game Awards Game of the Year? I don't know. For me personally, I would be very surprised if this isn't a serious contender for Game of the Year for me personally. And that like that's coming off of like Ratchet and Clank, which I think I can understand a lot of the comparisons that people are having, especially like even on XCast we talk a lot about. Like where is Xbox's like fun 3D platformer? And every episode that we ask that, Paris is like, where's Banjo-Kazooie? And I think this, even though, Double Fine was up until recently independent, like now they're under the Xbox umbrella, I think even though this is like a Double Fine thing, like now that Double Fine is under Xbox, I think this is Xbox's like answer to that question that we've asked so often. I think this is the big kind of 3D platformer with a lot of charm, a lot of fun, not one-to-one, but akin to your Ratchet and Clanks on PlayStation.
Sure.
And to be fair, like, you know, the Double Fine had to tweet this out today as well. Like, this isn't an Xbox exclusive. That's why we're talking about it on PS I Love You, since the embargo came up today. And like, yeah, just a reminder, it is coming to PS4 and PS5 and stuff like that. So it is something to look out for. And so, yeah, for me personally, yeah, I would be very surprised if it's not a, you know, top 3 contender for Game of the Year for me. And I'd honestly be very surprised if it's, when I eventually make my top 10 list of my Game of the Year top 10 list, I'd be very surprised if this ends up under Ratchet and Clank and not above it.
Wow.
Damn. High praise.
And that's mainly with story, themes, how they're able to tie that into gameplay design and level design and all that stuff. Everything that they do, kind of every aspect and how it all comes together is just very impressive to me. So the other question that I'll answer is, yes, play Psychonauts. This is the best time to play Psychonauts if you haven't already. There will be a recap at the beginning of Psychonauts 2 in case you haven't played it by the time it comes out, but it's on Game Pass if you're an Xbox player. It's on, like, they brought it from PS2 to PS4, so you can play Psychonauts 1 on, you know, your PlayStation console as well. I think it's a perfect time to check it out and get ready for Psychonauts 2, because I think Psychonauts 2 will definitely be a game to pay attention to this year.
Man, clock's ticking. I've been talking a lot of talk, Janet. I'm gonna play Psychonauts before Psychonauts 2 comes out.
How long is it? We're running out of time.
It's like 10 hours, I would say, roughly. Mike was able to beat it in a couple of sessions, I believe. I think he was trying to finish it before he checked out the Psychonauts 2 preview.
Sense,
So, I think if he's not finished with it, he's very close to finishing it after starting it, like early last week.
Okay. I'll get on it. I'll get out there. Janet, what have you been playing?
Demon Souls. I also beat the medium, as I mentioned before. So that was good.
You didn't think that was a good game, you said, right?
No, but I'm glad I finished it. And there's some interesting stuff. Again, I kind of want to spoil it. There's an interesting Easter egg toward the end that I enjoyed very much. And then this is like technically no one would consider it a spoiler, but I do because I consider everything a spoiler to be nice. At the end, they have like a little note from the developers, and it was just really sweet. Like, I'll probably post it on Twitter at some point, but it was basically like, hey, this was our most ambitious game. Like, you know, it was like very personal to us. We worked very hard on it. Like, we would love to hear your feedback. Like, we get better with your feedback, and they urge you to review it. So then I did go and I gave them 2 out of 5 stars, admittedly, but I was very moved. I was like,
hey, great letter. Fuck you.
I mean, that's the gig. I was like, this.
I hear you.
I didn't write a review because I'm like, I was like 4.5 hours deep into a stream. I'm like, I'm not going to sit here and like try to write up something. But yeah, I mean, I am glad I saw it through finally. And again, that's one of those games that I think is just okay. But if you argued it was good, I could totally see that. And if you argued it was mediocre or bad, I could also see that. I land on the in-between. But I've actually been within my community using that as like the line of where games land this year, because it was one of the first games I played in 2021. And so my community often, especially if it's a game that I'm not like super hot on for like my Game of the Year watch that I do every Friday, they're like, is it better than the medium? And sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, or nah, it's not. Or I'm like, oh, I don't know. And it's been weird to have that, or kind of amusing to have that as a barometer, because there are so many good ideas in it.
Yeah.
And I think if you see what it is, like trailer wise, and all that, and it is coming to PlayStation as well, and you're like, hey,
September 3rd, can't wait.
Yeah, this looks like something I'd be interested in. I'd say go for it. Like, why not? Because it does have some stuff that I really like. Like, I like the dual reality stuff. I was intrigued by elements of the story. Like, there's some good ideas there. And then again, I was so deep into it that I'm like, well, I might as well just finish it off. So I finally did that. But other than that, it's Demon Souls. Yeah.
I really liked the medium. I shouldn't say I really liked it. I really enjoyed the medium. We did a whole XCast review at the time when they announced PlayStation. I'm excited. I'm going to go back and platinum that because I enjoyed playing it. For me, the game was like trying to find its footing for what it was. And then there's the wheelchair segment. And once you hit the wheelchair, that's when I thought the game really like
that was like the breaking point for a lot of people, where it was like, and that's what I was working towards. I'm like, I want to at least just see this through and see where I land. It didn't do for me what it did for a lot of people, but it was interesting for that to be like where a lot of people were like, this either solidified it as something I was into or solidified it as something I wasn't as into.
And I'm with you that it took a lot of chances and did some interesting stuff. I thought the dual reality stuff, I remember the whole build up for it was that it seemed like the dual reality was going to be switching whenever you wanted to. And it's not. It's very like contained sections of what you need to do for puzzles and where you need to go with it, which I thought was an interesting move. But I'm excited to replay it on PlayStation because my controversial thought that I will follow up on a PS I Love You, I'm sure in September with, was that after when we were doing the Resident Evil Village review, and everybody was like, and Tim was like, I love this game, blah, blah. I was like, I like the medium more than I like Resident Evil Village.
What?
I thought the medium was more interesting. It took more chances, and you know what I mean. I was more.
I mean, if you're just gonna start saying stuff, like I'm not gonna give you a real response. You know what I mean?
Hey man, you're the one over here being like Uncharted's always suck, so you can get out of here too. You know what I mean?
I mean, you played and tell me that this is a good time for the entire time. Like, go ahead, lie to me.
Oh no, I don't think it's a good time for the whole entire time.
Tell me the last third of Uncharted 2 still is really good.
Yeah, the train was fun though. But other than that,
you don't like find Lazarevich there? Is it?
And even anything building up to Lazarevich.
We do at the end anyway. But with Demon Souls, I finally did some co-op in that game, and man, is it a different game when you have someone to just shepherd you through, to Sherpa you through? Like we went through like I think like 3 maybe more bosses when we were all together. It was like me, Eddie AK played forward, and oh my gosh, now I'm blanking on the name. Oh, I'm so sorry. If you're listening to this for some reason, I did know you, and it was a time that we had.
I did know you.
I'm blanking. There's at least Eddie I know, like Eddie's actual name and Eddie's handle, play forward, but like I don't remember the other one. But if you go to the VOD, it's there. And they were like, oh yeah, we'll come through, help you out in your game. Like I finally killed the knight. I got the I always forget it. The Falchion something. Level 4-1, if you know, you know, like that powerful weapon that you can get early in the game. I got that. That helped a lot. I beat the knight. I got my body back, so I was able to bring in summon people. If you're not familiar with Demon Souls, you lose your body.
This is all nonsense. It makes no sense.
You lose your body when you die. If you don't have your body, you can't get your full health potential, basically. So it's like, oh, damn, that sucks because it's easier to die. And if you have your body, you can have full health. But also, if you have your body and have beaten the first boss or one of the bosses or whatever, you can also summon people into your game, and they can help you. If you die, though, like you're back to square one of being a ghost that can't summon people, blah, 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 until you beat a boss, or there's an item that can also do it, but then it's like, do you want to use the item? Probably not. And yeah, it was so interesting getting to just fly for a bit, because my biggest point of struggle with Demon Souls has surprisingly not been like the game itself necessarily. I thought the game, it's like just playing it would be extremely hard, because everyone's like, the Souls games are really hard, like hardcore gaming, da, da, da. It's fine, but the thing is, like, because it is difficult still, I can play and not really make progress. And it's true that you can grind for souls, and then you can level up in that way, and that's its own progress. Or like we can do the whole, sometimes it's okay just to learn and practice, and that's progress. But like, y'all know that ain't real progress. And like my struggle with this game, again, stuff takes time, is I'm like, oh, it's going to be so many hours for me to get through it, because there are sessions where I'll stream for like a 4-hour session, and I really don't do much of anything. And I'm like, see y'all next week. And then we start up again, and then we run it back. And I'm like, this is going to go on for so much longer than like how long To Beat told me it will. But that little bit of help really just like aided me in flying through. And now I'm like, okay, as long as I get my body back, I can summon in some people, and then we'll just cheese our way to the end. But it was interesting playing it like that, because it was so much easier than it was talked about being when you played in that way. And it's just such a huge cheese strategy. And it was, I don't know, it was fun. It was cool. It was interesting though, because I never heard of like that method getting talked about as much when they talk about like Demon Souls is super hard. I'm like, not if you decide it's not going to be.
That's what it was for me with Bloodborne, right? Where when we were on a stream or whatever, Tam saw me struggling and was like, I can tell you're getting angry. You want me to come in? And yeah, and he came in and just worked everything, right? And so the game became no longer the beat my head. I was like, we got around the thing that was the issue, right? And made a bunch of progress a totally cheap way, but we did it, right? And then I went and grinded the fake, I went and grinded the whatever challenge room that then gave me a bunch of souls that made me more powerful, so I could play on my own and feel like I was still destroying things a very certain way. Like there are avenues in those games to not make them the quote unquote challenging grind fest they need to be sometimes. And then Barrett, before we get out of here, because of course we have a post to do, patreon.com/kindafunnygames. You've been playing something else you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I just wanted to shout out really quick that I've been playing Metal Gear Solid for the very first time.
Hell yeah, you have, Barrett. I'm proud of you.
The only Metal Gear game I have ever played before last week was Metal Gear Survive, thanks to Destin Legary, who assigned that game to me for gameplay capture when I was working at IGN. And so... yeah, it was just one of those things where I think Metal Gear was always wrong place, wrong time, and I was at the wrong age to like actually get into those games. And so, yeah, it's been a blast to go back to Metal Gear Solid, which isn't the first game that I've gone back to that originally came out on PS1, and it's been like weird to go back to with like weird controls and it being super obtuse, going back to like Resident Evil 1 and other stuff like that. But this has been the most enjoyable game from the PS1 era that like I missed and have gone back to as an adult. Just the weird story and characters, what we did on Friday where I finally did the very famous Psychomantis fight where on the original PS1 you had to like fight him using the player 2 controller.
And
like I had to do the weird way because I'm playing on GOG on PC, and so where I have like all these remapped controls for like an Xbox controller. My second controller was my keyboard, so I had to fight him using my keyboard and figuring all that shit out. So like all of that's been really weird. But like Mike and I are like really loving the story because Mike hasn't played any of these games either. So like we've been really loving the story. We left off on like a huge cliffhanger that we're excited to get back to, not this week but next week for twitch.tv/kindafunnygames. We're planning on playing through the entire thing on stream. And you can check out the first 2 parts right now over on youtube.com/kindafunnyplays. And so like, yeah, we're super in, learning about Gray Fox being the weird cyborg man that screams and shit like that. Like nothing makes sense, but at the same time, like I'm ready for it to make even less sense, And
I'm so happy you guys are digging it because it's always that's definitely one of those in a 2021 you step in and start playing Metal Gear Solid from the PS1 and it's like, is that going to resonate still or does it not anymore? And to have you guys come out of it and the way you were talking about it, the reaction gifs from it, Mike tweeted yesterday, I think 2 days ago, that it was a photo of his Vita loaded up with Metal Gear Solid.
It took him a few days to figure that out too, and he was like dedicated. He was like. He was having problems with the store on Vita and all this shit, but like that took him.
Mike's
3
one of the
days.
dumb ones. We know that.
Yeah, he put in 3 days of work to finally get that to work, and like that's how into it he is. Of like that's like he's enjoying watching me play, but he also wants to play along as well. And so yeah, like we've been saying on stream, like we want to dedicate ourselves and stream through the entire series. So like I'm getting ready to have a way to play through Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3 HD. The only way I can play Metal Gear Solid 4 on a modern console is to play it on PlayStation Now through streaming, and so we'll see how that fares.
Why not just borrow an old console? Oh, because then for streaming, right? That'd be a problem. You're right. Sorry.
Yeah, and so just like, I don't want to deal with the PS3 as well, Greg. The PS3 is a train.
I don't want to deal with this. Yeah, I don't want to have anything to do with this.
So like, we'll deal with that when we get there, and of course, Metal Gear Solid 5 will be a Sophie's choice of where I actually want to play it when we get there. And then there's the question. I'll probably put up a poll of if I actually need to play Peace Walker or not.
You do.
I don't trust you as much on.
First off, we played through it last year in PS I Love You XOXO. It's a similar thing. It's co-op. I will gladly play with you. Gladly play with you. Don't worry about that. I'll bring in my over-leveled character. We'll get in there.
And maybe we bring in Snowbike Mike to be my +1 there.
I mean, we all could play. It's more than it's
more than just you player. Wow.
Yeah, I'm not wrong about that, right, everybody?
I don't know. Kindafunny.com/.
No, they're not checking that.
But anyway, I'm absolutely loving it. I can't wait to get back to the first one. I can't wait to see where the rest of the series goes. And from what I hear, everything makes sense by the end of Metal Gear Solid 5. So I'm really excited for that.
It's crystal clear by the end of it. Don't worry about it. Everything's there.
I can't wait for it to all, like, from the little that I played from Metal Gear Survive, I can't wait for all of that to build up to Metal Gear Survive and make Metal Gear Survive make a little more sense, because I had no context for that game. And so, like, I'm really excited for them to build up to the whole, like, other dimension and fighting zombies in another dimension and all this stuff.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. So, I'm glad that Survive. It sucks that it's spoiled for you that there's going to be another dimension you go fight in and stuff, but it's there. Man, I'm totally stumped now. I'm trying to think back to how many people I played Metal Gear. Maybe it is only 2 players. Yeah, it's 2 players. Because I was gonna say I only remember. I have the memory of playing with Sam at the review event, Mike at the bar, Blessing. Obviously, that's last time. Yeah, second player. Oh no. Oh, that's why I'm confused. From infiltration from Wikipedia. Infiltration missions during co-ops can be played alongside a second player, while up to 4 players can participate in battles against enemy vehicles and AI weapons. So that's why I'm getting confused. Thank you very much, everybody.
Gotcha.
But I need to keep building my Metal Gear. I still want to platinum it. You know what I mean? Like I have it over there on PS3 ready for me to get back to, just like I have Metal Gear Solid 5 ready to get back to, and I'll be quiet now. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of PS I Love You XOXO. Of course, the show isn't ending here. You can go to patreon.com/kindafunnygames where we're going to do a post show. Janet, you know what we're talking about?
Yeah.
What are we talking about?
I didn't think you'd ask me.
No, we're going to talk about a question here from Norm Chacho about what a new PlayStation handheld should look like in 2021. Of course, if you want to get that, patreon.com/kindafunnygames. Over on patreon.com/kindafunnygames, you can write in to be part of PS I Love You XOXO. You can get the show ad free. You can get it with the post show. You can get a bunch of exclusive podcasts over there. You can get every Kind of Funny Games podcast without the ads, the ability to write in, and all that jazz. It's a great way to support us. However, if you have no bucks tossed our way, remember each and every Tuesday, a new episode of PS I Love You XOXO, Kind of Funny's PlayStation podcast, posts 6 a.m. Pacific time, youtube.com/kindoffunnygames, roosterteeth.com, podcast services around the globe. Janet, where can people keep up with you?
You can follow me on Twitter and all social media under the handle of Game Onsus. It's GameONYSUS, and specifically twitch.tv, same handle. Every Friday I'm playing either a new game that just came out or polishing up whatever bit I have left of a game from 2021, but I'm always playing 2021 games. So if you're like, hey, I just played this and I'm really excited to see other people play it, I'm playing it. If you're like, I don't know if I want this, see what you think of it from my gameplay. But yeah, it's a fun time.
It is a fun time, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to have some fun on patreon.com/kindoffunnygames. But if you're not joining us, until next time, it's been our pleasure to serve you.